Chapter 2265. Shaochen thought about Pan Huang's words. If the hidden spirit temple invited him for a chat because of the ancient Yan Emperor tomb, then what about Yuanzhen? What about Yuanzhen? If Shaochen recalled correctly, Yuanzhen also had an ethereal immortal palace key. Furthermore, he was the strongest true inheritor of the hidden spirit temple. Could it be that they did not know that Yuanzhen already had an ethereal immortal palace key? Strange. I should wait for the abbot to come before asking. Setting this matter aside for now, Shaochen asked, "Senior, how much do you know about the ancient Yan Emperor tomb?" Pan Huang scratched his head and replied after some thought, "Let me think. I entered the ancient Yan Emperor tomb once. However, that was a long time ago. The ancient Yan Emperor tomb is a secret realm of the royal clan. It gathers the luck of the entire Yanwu dynasty. The entire dynasty's accumulations are gathered here. There are many inheritance treasure troves that are opened only during the succession race. If I recall correctly, every prince has a quota for the succession race. They can bring their guests in to help them fight for luck and become emperor. However, these guests are not allowed to be older than 500 years old. Aside from that, there are no other requirements." Finding this strange, Shaochen asked, "Not allowed to be older than 500 years old? Why is that?" Pan Huang smiled and said, "Just think about it. There are inheritance treasuries everywhere. What if an overly strong old monster comes? What if an overly strong old monster came and wiped out all the inheritances? If he wanted to kill, he could kill all the princes. Ha! Then, the entire dynasty would have no successor." Shaochen understood. The human heart was unfathomable. It was necessary to make such a rule. However, the intensity of the competition in there is flabbergasting. Everyone knows the benefits of the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Every time the succession race takes place, all the experts under 500 years old of the Great Thousand Realms, or rather, the entire martial epoch, gather in Yan City to fight for these few slots. The various noble clans and sects of the dynasty have been making preparations long ago, focusing on nurturing talents under 500 years old. Even if the prince they support does not become the crown prince, they can take away the inheritances they obtain in there. The ambitious princes with high statuses visit everywhere, searching for experts throughout the entire martial epoch. It can be expected that every prince's retainer is definitely an expert among experts. Shaochen was slightly startled. He had long heard that the competition for the crown prince position was very intense. A sovereign emperor who would stir up the entire martial epoch. Now, it looked like it was true. As Pan Huang said, the sovereign emperors who could get a spot would probably all have a powerful secret art. Pan Huang paused for a moment before smiling. "What are your thoughts on the ancient Yan Emperor tomb?" "Me? Yeah, what do you think?" Shaochen said after some thought, "I'm not very interested in the other inheritance treasure troves, but I won't despise them either. After all, no one would complain about having too many heavenly treasures, but the main focus would still be on the misty immortal palace." Pan Huang said indifferently, "The ethereal immortal palace's prophecies have never been accurate. I once chased after it twice but returned empty-handed." "Senior, are you also interested in the misty palace?" "Of course. The Wings of Time was the only transcendent grade soul tool in the current martial epoch. Which foe god would not care about it? However, I am not interested now. Not to mention the accuracy of the prophecies, it would be impossible for me to gather all 7 ethereal immortal palace keys, especially the inheritance key. Then, why is the hidden spirit temple so nervous? It's better to be safe than sorry." Pan Huang raised his eyebrows and looked behind Shaochen. Then, he said, "The abbot is here." When Shaochen looked back, he saw 3 old monks outside the courtyard. Their cultivations were incredibly horrifying, unfathomable. One of the 3 old monks wore a golden kasaya and held a Buddhist monk staff. If there were no surprises, this would be the hidden spirit temple's abbot Su Yi. The one on the left was Su Yun. The one on the right was an old man that Shaochen did not recognize, looking at him with some hostility. Xiaochen did not know where this hostility came from. He had never met these people before. Benefactor Xiao, this is senior brother Abbot. This is this old monk's junior brother, Su Ming. Venerable Su Yun stepped forward and introduced the two to Xiaochen. You guys talk first. I'll take my leave. Pan Huang stood up and smiled faintly. Before he left, he sent a voice projection to Xiaochen, ask for more benefits and don't be soft-hearted. Don't think that this place looks simple. This poor monk is very rich. Xiaochen felt speechless. This senior Pan Huang speaks without any scruples. He does not have the air of a senior expert at all. If this abbot knew about Pan Huang's voice projection, what would he think? Greetings, seniors. Xiaochen said calmly with a cupped fist salute. After Abbot Suyi returned the greeting, he went straight to the point. I believe you know that junior brother Su Yun invited you here because he has other matters to discuss. I am the one in charge of this matter, so let me do the talking. There is no harm in speaking. The ancient Yan Emperor tomb will open in 2 months. This old monk already knows that Benefactor Xiao has an ethereal immortal palace key and will be going with the 9th prince. Indeed, it is as Senior Pan Huang guessed. Xiao Chen's expression did not change as he said, indeed. Venerable Abbot, what advice do you have for me? Abbot Suyi paused for a moment before continuing, if the ethereal immortal palace really appears, I would like to ask Benefactor Xiao to make a move and ensure that the wings of time do not fall into the hands of the demons. Xiao Chen's heart skipped a beat. He looked at Abbot Suyi and asked, Senior, are you so sure that demons will enter the ancient Yan Emperor tomb? Venerable Su Yun, who was at the side, said, some of the royal court's elders have been working with the Azure Lotus Church in secret for a long time. They are even bolder this time. To think that even the ancient Yan Emperor tomb, a forbidden land of the royal court, tacitly allowed them to enter. They think that no one knows. However, my hidden spirit temple naturally has a way to find out. Xiaochen frowned and said, I don't understand. Isn't working with the Azure Lotus Church like asking a tiger for its skin? The abbot sighed helplessly. The people of the royal clan have their own way of doing things. They feel that they can toy with the Azure Lotus Church and use it to keep my hidden spirit temple in check. In reality, it is as Benefactor Xiao said. If this isn't asking a tiger for its skin, what is? However, there will always be people who think themselves clever, thinking that they can control everything. I understand. Xiaochen nodded to indicate that he understood. Perhaps to the royal court, the Azure Lotus Church and the Hidden Spirit Temple were not good things. Balancing the two sides was the best choice. However, Xiaochen had other doubts. Does the Hidden Spirit Temple know that Yuanzhen has an ethereal immortal palace key as well? Has your esteemed temple never thought of working with the other princes? Wouldn't that be more direct? Xiaochen asked probingly after some thought. Venerable Su Yun smiled bitterly. Right now, the royal court is avoiding the Hidden Spirit Temple like a tiger, fearing that the Hidden Spirit Temple supports a prince ascending to the throne. Hence, they do not allow the Hidden Spirit Temple's disciples to enter. Otherwise, the Hidden Spirit Temple would not have to trouble Benefactor Xiao. After a moment of silence, Xiaochen said, I find this very strange. Even without you saying anything, I would not sit back and watch others snatch away the wings of time. Su Ming, who had been silent all this while, said coldly, Stop. How are you going to stop them? With your strength, it would be pretty good if you don't lose your life. Xiaochen found this strange. The moment this Su Ming entered, his eyes showed some hostility. Now, his words were also very blunt. Su Yun quickly said, Benefactor Xiao, please don't take offense. My junior brother's words were blunt, but they were the truth. Senior brother Abbot sought you out because he worried that you and the 9th prince would not be strong enough to stop the Azure Lotus Church. So. Abbot Suyi said, so, this old monk decided to lend you a hand. This is a Bodhi seed that has been placed at the summit of Spirit Vulture Mountain for 10,000 years. It has a strong suppressive effect on evil Buddhist sections. If the ethereal immortal palace really appears, benefactor Shao can use this item to suppress all evil Buddhist sect experts. When Shaochen received the scarlet Bodhi seed, he saw that it was a scarlet Bodhi seed. When he looked at it carefully, he discovered that the scarlet Bodhi seed had many tiny divine scripts carved on it, at least 10,000 of them. What is on it? The Kasyapa Buddhist scripture is a supreme scripture of the Buddhist sections. All heretics will be suppressed before this scripture. Those who are not strong enough might even turn to ashes on the spot. However, it is not very useful to those who are not of the Buddhist sections. This item is incredibly precious. If the ethereal immortal palace does not appear, please keep it. Abbot Suyi instructed softly as he looked at the Bodhi seed in Shaochen's hand with some reluctance. Shaochen smiled faintly and did not say anything more. Now that it was in his hands, there was naturally no reason for him to return it. However, this scarlet Bodhi seed was not enough to convince him. Shaochen said calmly, "I want another item." "What is it?" "A copy of the last 6 moves of the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique." Although rumor had it that the secret manual was lost and the hidden spirit temple did not have a complete copy, Shaochen did not really believe that. Since the original copy was missing, there should be a copy. Chapter 2266. After Shaochen made his request, the expressions of Abbot Suyi, Su Yun, and Su Ming all changed slightly. A sinister look flashed in Su Ming's eyes. Not to mention that this is a Buddhist sect forbidden technique, it has already spread out. The hidden spirit temple does not have a complete copy. Even if they did, they would not give it to someone who cultivates a demonic Tao cultivation technique and is plagued with sin. So, that is the case. This old monk sensed the demonic Tao cultivation technique in Shaochen, which was why he was so hostile. Su Yun said slowly and softly, "Benefactor Shao, please change your request. This request is too difficult." The hidden spirit temple's abbot, Suyi, looked at Shaochen. Although he did not say anything, his eyes conveyed the same meaning. "In that case, there is no need to negotiate. I do not care about other requests." Shaochen took out the scarlet Bodhi seed and handed it back. Then, he prepared to take his leave. Abbot Suyi received the scarlet Bodhi seed from Shaochen. Then, he remained silent. Su Yun sighed softly at the side. As for Su Ming, he snorted coldly and said, "We are not asking him for help. There is no need to think so highly of him." Shaochen, who had already turned around, smiled coldly in his heart. "In that case, why did they ask me to come?" Su Ming needed to clarify this. To Shaochen, he was not obligated to help the hidden spirit temple stop the Azure Lotus Church's people. Giving him the scarlet Bodhi seed to suppress the Azure Lotus Church was not a problem for Shaochen. After all, it was free. Since the other party invited him, Shaochen naturally had the qualifications to raise conditions. Furthermore, did this Su Ming really think that he was not a match for the Azure Lotus Church without the scarlet Bodhi seed? In that case, Su Ming underestimated Shaochen too much. "Benefactor Shao, please wait." Just as Shaochen was about to leave the Su Yun Hall, Abbot Suyi turned around and arrived before Shaochen, holding the scarlet Bodhi seed. "This item is a token of our temple's sincerity. Benefactor Shaochen personally killed the Black Lotus Church's sect venerate and reconstructed little Yen Chen's physical body. No matter what, my Buddhist sect is greatly indebted to you. Thus, this item is a gift." Suyi stepped forward and returned the blood-colored Bodhi to Shaochen. Shaochen did not stand on ceremony. He put away the blood-colored Bodhi and handed over the Golden Book of Buddhism. "Benefactor Shao, what is the meaning of this?" Venerable Su Yun asked after receiving the golden letter. Shaochen said softly, "Senior Su Ming seems to have a problem with me. I don't know if I can accept the so-called kindness, so I don't dare to be presumptuous. One thing for one thing." Shaochen still respected Venerable Su Yun and Abbot Suyi. However, Su Ming treated them with hostility for no reason. This made Shaochen somewhat uncomfortable. It felt like he was deliberately taking advantage of the hidden spirit temple. Abbot Suyi, you don't have to worry too much. The first prince and I will not rest until one of us is dead. If the Azure Lotus Church really wants to protect him, I have no reason not to kill them. So, even without your esteemed temple's request, I would still stop this group of people from obtaining the wings of time. Xiaochen paused for a moment and said softly, as for my strength, boom. Before Xiaochen could finish speaking, his entire body suddenly released a blue light. His chest looked transparent. It was crystalline and translucent, resplendent and dazzling. I have an immortal heart. When the dust scatters and the flower blooms, it will illuminate 3 lifetimes. The blue lotus flower under Xiaochen's feet bloomed elegantly. His white robes looked simple and tidy. With a thought, he executed the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique's 3-life flower. Xiaochen stood on the lotus flower, but it seemed like he was separated from it by an entire world, appearing boundlessly mysterious. This was a saber technique, but no one could sense any saber intent. This move already reached great perfection. The saber intent in it already existed between formless and tangible. Formless meant that one could not sense it. Formless meant that the entire state was made of saber intent. The expressions of Su Yi and the other two changed, feeling shocked in their hearts. This was not a strength that a small perfection sovereign emperor should have. Suddenly, there was a change in the realm. Xiaochen's figure on the blue lotus flower turned blurry and distorted. The entire world sank into darkness. A cold killing intent formed by Buddhist might soared into the clouds, seeming to merge with the heavenly Tao. The sky shattered, and an eye formed by the heavenly Tao's killing intent struggled to open. Heavenly Eye. Su Yun exclaimed, this is the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique's merciless killing. If heaven has feelings, it will age. The heavenly Tao is the most emotionless, and the heavenly Tao's killing intent is the most powerful. One will die without a doubt if one looks at heaven. The heavenly Tao was the most emotionless. When it came to killing, who could compare to heaven? When heaven opened its eyes, whoever it looked at would die. If heaven wanted to kill, who dared to say no? This was merciless killing. Xiaochen casually waved his hand, and the various mysterious phenomena immediately vanished as if nothing had happened. Xiaochen bowed slightly and said softly, this junior was rude and embarrassed myself before the 3 seniors. As foe gods, you naturally do not care about such insignificant tricks. However, I believe that as long as a peak sovereign emperor does not make a move, this junior will be able to protect myself. That was right. That earlier move was merciless killing, the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique's 6th move. Xiaochen was not trying to show off on purpose. Doing so before 3 foe gods would appear to be overestimating his own abilities. However, Xiaochen was truly unconvinced by this false reputation. Xiaochen's expression showed that he wanted to take advantage of the hidden spirit temple. May the Lord Buddha bless me. Benefactor Xiao is too humble. Such skills are an eye-opener for us. Truth be told, aside from Mahamaya himself, no one in our temple can practice merciless killing. As for Benefactor Xiao's 3-life flower, it is even more astonishing. It seems to have already surpassed Mahamaya's. Abbot Suyi praised Xiaochen's 3-life flower more than the 3-life flower and merciless killing. This was because Xiaochen had already practiced the 3-life flower to great perfection, nearly reaching perfection. He had already surpassed the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique's limits. As for merciless killing, it was because Xiaochen had just reached small perfection and still had many flaws. One could tell that it was a little strenuous for him to use it. However, with the 3-life flower before him, Xiaochen believed that great perfection was only a matter of time. Junior brother, what do you think? Venerable Su Yun asked Su Ming with a faint smile. Naturally, Su Ming felt very upset. He really wanted to say something insignificant, that it was merely a so-so. However, he clearly could not say such words. Saying it would be like slapping himself in the face. Hence, Su Ming showed a sullen expression and decided not to say anything. Seeing that Su Ming had nothing to say, Venerable Su Yun looked at the abbot and said, "Senior brother, I feel that there are some things that we should honestly tell benefactor Xiao." Xiao Qin showed some doubt in his eyes, feeling somewhat confused. Yi thought for a while. Then, he looked at Xiao Qin and said, "Actually, benefactor Xiao does not know this. This Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique only has 9 moves. The last 3 moves are the result of Mahamaya's disguise, reversing the sequence. If anyone follows Mahamaya's instructions and practices the last 6 moves, they will fall into a state of madness. This is the reason why this technique is classified as a forbidden move. In terms of killing, there are actually several Buddhist sect martial techniques with even more ferocious killing intent than the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique. My Buddha is merciful. However, the merciful must be stained with blood. Otherwise, how can they illuminate the world and kill evil?" When Xiao Qin heard that, he felt slightly stunned. He had not expected there to be such a secret. In that case, why not announce it to the world? Yi sighed softly, "An expert of my Buddhist sect discovered the secret only after a long time. After that, the saber manual was stolen, so we hid this secret to prevent someone from truly practicing this Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique from harming my Buddhist sect. So, that is the case. As for the last 3 moves, the hidden spirit temple does indeed have them. However, they are already sealed in an extremely evil land. This is because Mahamaya itself is a taboo in the hidden spirit temple. There is no need to elaborate on this reason." A thought occurred to Xiao Qin. "So," Abbot Suyi said after some thought, "since benefactor Xiao is already determined to go against the Azure Lotus Church, the hidden spirit temple can lend benefactor Xiao a hand. We can tell you where the 7th move is. As for whether you can obtain it or not, that will depend on benefactor Xiao's ability." It looked like the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique did have many implications. The hidden spirit temple could not possibly let Xiao Qin practice the complete version of the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique and tell him where the 7th move was. The hidden spirit temple also took a fancy to Xiao Qian's strength, allowing him to fight with the Azure Lotus Church's experts. The enemy of my enemy is my friend. Hence, they made an exception this time. "Where is it?" Xiao Qin asked. Abbot Suyi said after some thought, "Come with me." When Su Ming saw the situation, he felt dissatisfied. However, Yi and Su Yun already made up their minds. No matter how dissatisfied Su Ming was, he could not stop them. He snorted coldly and turned to leave. Chapter 2267. Su Ye's actions upset Su Ming, so he immediately left. When the two saw the situation, they felt somewhat helpless but did not say anything. Venerable Su Yun consoled Xiao Qin, saying, "Benefactor Xiao, there is no need to mind. Junior brother Su Ming is overly attached to the righteous and evil paths. He once had a great ambition to sweep away all the evil demons in the world and re-establish the orthodox Buddhist sect, bringing glory to the world. It is inevitable for him to feel some enmity for you. In reality, senior brother and I are not too attached to the righteous and evil paths. Whether there is a Buddha in our hearts or not, we follow our hearts. As long as one does not believe in an evil Buddha and has a fate with Buddha, we are all friends." Abbot Suyi added, "That's right. Faith cannot be forced. The Kasyapa Buddha never said such a thing. Before he became a Buddha, the Kasyapa Buddha once cultivated a demonic Tao cultivation technique. However, at the final moment, he still became a Buddha and established the great cause of the Buddhist sect." Xiao Qin nodded in agreement. Being a Buddha did not mean that one would not make mistakes or be supreme. There was no need to force others to believe in it. As for false reputation, Xiao Qin was not surprised by this grand ambition of his. Since ancient times, there had been no lack of such fanatics. It was not just the Buddhist sect. There were many such ambitious people in the other sections. Under Abbot Su Ye's lead, Xiao Qin followed him to a small path that meandered upward. Unknowingly, they had arrived at the summit of Spirit Vulture Mountain. This was a cold, damp, and dark, empty land. An unsettling and anxious atmosphere spread in the air. It was like all the sins of the world gathered here. Shaochen looked at the boundless darkness before him. The land seemed to be filled with sin and wildness, making him feel somewhat strange. Where is this? How can a pure land of the Buddhist sect have such a dirty place? Shaochen could not help asking, feeling like he had arrived in the abyssal underworld. Venerable Su Yun asked after some thought, "Did you see the golden Kasyapa Buddha at the summit when you were at the foot of the mountain?" Shaochen nodded. "Naturally, I saw it. It would be hard not to see it." When one looked up, one could see the huge golden Kasyapa Buddha at the summit. Buddhist light shone, and auspicious signs filled the sky. That world was like a dreamland of heaven. It was just like the pure land of ultimate bliss mentioned in the Buddhist scriptures, causing one to yearn for it and feel reverence for it. At that time, Shaochen wondered if the hidden spirit temple was hidden in the small world behind the golden Kasyapa Buddha body. This is the world behind Kasyapa Buddha, where the sins of the greater thousand worlds are gathered. With supreme sentiments, Buddha shouldered all the sins on behalf of the people of the world, spreading his compassion all over the world. The pure land of ultimate bliss that everyone yearned for was the human world, the mortal world. Buddha created the pure land of ultimate bliss for them, but they don't even realize it. Venerable Su Yun's words made Shaochen enter deep thought. The human world was a pure land, and bliss was right beside him. It was an interesting point of view, but the Buddhist sects did not publicize it. Or perhaps, the mortals of the world were unwilling to accept reality. They actually didn't need the kingdom of heaven. What they needed was an illusion. Shaochen did not delve too deeply into the reason behind it. He casually sized up the dark and empty land in front of him. Not a single blade of grass grew in the boundless wilderness, and a rancid smell lingered in the air. Extremely ferocious wild beasts lived in this lifeless land. Many of them even retained the aura of pure great desolate aeon savage beasts. Even further away, at the edge of his field of vision, he could vaguely see 7 black mountains. Aside from ferocious beasts, he also saw several hidden spirit temple disciples undergoing experiential training here. They either tempered their Buddhist hearts, practiced magic skills, or hunted savage beasts. It looked like this place was no secret to the hidden spirit temple disciples. Do you see the 7 black mountains? The saber manual for the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique's 7th move is in those black mountains. The black mountains are forbidden lands of the Buddhist sections. I can only give you half a month. If you cannot find the saber manual, benefactor Shao can only leave. Shaochen looked in the direction that Venerable Su Yun pointed. It was the 3rd mountain from the left. It was too far away, so he could not make out any mysterious phenomenon. I understand. Many thanks to the 2 seniors for giving me this opportunity. No matter what, I have to give it a try. Even though Shaochen knew that the hidden spirit temple might not be able to give him the saber manual for the final 2 moves, he still had to grasp this opportunity. Right now, Shaochen grasped the saber manual for the 6 moves. Breaking the mundane, resolving the mundane, and entering hell were the moves he obtained by himself. As for the last 3 moves, in the mortal realm, 3 life flower, and merciless killing, he obtained them from the little monk Yen Chen. As for the final 3 moves, they were taboos among taboos within the Buddhist sections. They were stored in this extremely evil land. If Shaochen could find them and cultivate them successfully, it would be an unprecedented feat. Goodbye. Shaochen turned around, performed a cupped fist salute, and left. The moment he turned around, he saw a Buddha statue, which stunned him for a moment. That Buddha statue was incredibly tall but expressionless. Its entire body was pitch black, looking cold and emotionless. This Buddha statue was filled with might and pressure, not showing any benevolence or mercy. However, it was solemn and dignified, looking somewhat strange. Shaochen entered deep thought. This should be the golden body of that Kasyapa Buddha. However, everyone could only see its front. When the Kasyapa Buddha statue saw the resplendent golden light and the auspicious signs filling the sky, it smiled. Which one was the real one? Or rather, both sides were true bodies. Looking at it this way, one could understand why the Azure Lotus Church and the Black Lotus Church split from the Buddhist sect. Shaking his head, Zhang Xian turned around and continued on his way. At the same time, Su Ming showed an unsightly expression in the hidden spirit temple. He was clearly unhappy with Fang Zhang's senior brother's idea. Yuan Zhen sat quietly on the left, listening to Xiao Chen's rage. Grandmaster, there's no need to worry too much. Even if he went to the dark world, he might not be able to cross that sea. Even if he crossed that sea, he might not be able to ascend the Black Mountain. It would be even more difficult to find the saber technique manual. Yuan Zhen said softly after remaining silent for a long time. Su Ming shook his head and said, "You cannot underestimate this person. Previously, I did not look down on him too much, but I have to admit it. This brat's strength is somewhat terrifying. Even if you undo the seal, you might not be able to completely suppress him." Yuan Zhen nodded. Martial ancestor is right. Su Ming said sullenly, "What I am angry about is not giving him the saber manual but senior brother Abbott's attitude. He is a yes man, completely lacking the dignity of a Buddhist sect leader. No wonder the Buddhist sect has been losing its prestige in the past few years. To be so polite to a sinful person, the evil sect will destroy it sooner or later." Yuan Zhen quickly said, "Martial ancestor, you cannot speak of this carelessly," Su Ming forcefully interrupted, "There's no need to worry. This time, when you sneak into the ancient Yan Emperor tomb, if the ethereal immortal palace comes out, you must snatch the wings of time. Only with the wings of time can a Buddhist monarch truly break through the epoch's shackles and descend into this world. We need to start a new epoch. This group of people is too conservative. How can the orthodox Buddhist sect rise up in their hands?" A brilliant light flickered in Yuan Zhen's eyes as he said, "Martial ancestor, rest assured. This disciple will do his best to let a Buddhist monarch descend into this world." Su Ming looked at Yuan Zhen and smiled in satisfaction. "It looks like I was right to choose you." Xiao Chen had once stayed in the abyssal underworld for a few months. He was very familiar with such a dark and turbid environment. Furthermore, he cultivated a demonic Tao cultivation technique in the first place. Now, he could change his divine energy sea as he pleased. He did not feel any discomfort in this environment. However, traveling was exhausting. The 7 Black Mountains were clearly not far away, but after walking for 7 days, it still felt unreachable. The journey was not difficult. However, the occasional ferocious beasts gave Xiao Chen a headache. The further he went, the stronger the ferocious beasts he encountered. During this period, Xiao Chen met several hidden spirit temple disciples and tried to converse with them. He tried to converse with them and gained some unexpected gains. These disciples did not treat him as an outsider, telling him about the situation here. For example, the 7 Black Mountains were a taboo. Even the strongest among them could only walk to a sea of bitterness and look at the 7 Black Mountains across the sea. After that, they could not proceed any further. However, no one could say for sure how far that sea was. Some said it was only 50,000 kilometers, some said it was 500,000 kilometers, and some said it was tens of millions of kilometers. One would have to walk for a year before reaching it. No matter what the answer was, Xiao Chen did not even see the shadow of that sea. Clearly, the Black Mountains were even further away. However, this place greatly suppressed the Tao domain. The laws of space and time were different. Even a simple jump drained a vast amount of divine energy. Hence, Xiao Chen could only continue walking in boredom. Fortunately, Xiao Chen's mental state was good enough. He could endure the boredom of this environment. On a certain day, Xiao Chen looked up, and a light flickered in his eyes. When Xiao Chen squinted, he discovered that a bright sea had appeared in front at some point in time. In this gloomy and cold environment, the sea was exceptionally clear and could be discovered at a glance. Xiao Chen rejoiced in his heart. He could not help speeding up. Chapter 2268. It was a sea. Suddenly, a clear, jade-green sea appeared in the dark and desolate world. The seawater was pure, reflecting the 7 black mountains. Shaochen arrived at the seaside. Then, he revealed a contemplative expression, remaining silent. Before he came, he had heard that a sea of bitterness was at the edge of this world. The hidden spirit temple disciples on experiential training here could not advance any further after reaching this place. While there were temple rules, the greater reason was that they could not go out. This sea was known as the Sea of Bitterness. The Buddhists said that the Sea of Bitterness was boundless. Since it was boundless, one naturally could not go out. The 7 sufferings of the world were birth, old age, illness, death, hatred, love, separation, and unattainable. This vast sea gathered boundless suffering. Once, Shaochen had faced a sea of bitterness in the Kunlun realm. That sea of bitterness had a headless Kitagarbha bodhisattva. There were saber lights left by the Qing emperor and countless aggrieved spirits and malicious ghosts lingering in the sea of bitterness in agony. Shaochen was no stranger to the sea of bitterness. However, the sea of bitterness before him was different from the one he saw in the Kunlun realm. Firstly, there was no Kitagarbha bodhisattva or countless aggrieved spirits. Secondly, this sea of bitterness was clear and pure, with the 7 black mountains reflected in it. Shaochen raised his eyebrows slightly and looked at the other side of the sea of bitterness, at the 3rd black mountain from the left. That was his destination. The saber manual for the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique's 7th move was hidden there. 13 days of the half-month that Suyi gave Shaochen had already passed. He only had 2 days left. If Shaochen delayed in this sea of bitterness, it would be practically impossible to obtain the saber manual. Hence, he could not step onto this sea of bitterness without being fully confident. Shaochen bent over and scooped up a puddle of clear seawater. They slid off his fingertips one by one, dripping to the ground. Every drop of water had a vague reflection of Shaochen trapped in it. Strange, is this really a sea of bitterness? Shaochen felt doubtful. Although the many hidden spirit temple disciples said that this was a sea of bitterness, Shaochen had seen it before. However, Shaochen, who had seen the true sea of bitterness, felt doubtful and did not dare to agree. Whoosh! Shaochen flicked his finger, and a saber light shot out. The saber light stuck close to the water and flew forward. Wherever he passed, waves would be stirred up. He pressed forward courageously, flying, 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 they were always in sight, unable to fly out of the sea. Interesting. Below the Kasyapa Buddha's golden body, Suyi and Yun, who were secretly observing Shaochen. Below the Kasyapa Buddha's golden body at the summit of Spirit Vulture Mountain, Su Yun and Su Yi, who were secretly observing Shaochen, revealed faint smiles. It looks like he can walk out of this. If he can't get out, he can't blame us for not giving him a chance. The 2 of them were more optimistic about whether Shaochen could obtain the saber manual or not, they were more relaxed. Yi, Shao and spirits would not. And would. And, he, and was, they, he, and, saber, and, Shao, and, would not. And. To the hidden spirit temple, this was a win-win situation. Unfortunately, Su Ming did not think of this. However, just when the 2 concluded that Shaochen could not walk out of this sea, he took a step forward and calmly walked up. Strange, he figured it out. It can't be that fast, right? Su Yun and Su Yi both revealed shock, clearly surprised. Could it be that Shaochen was really going to be the first person to step on the Black Mountains in the past few thousand years? Step by step, Shaochen showed a calm expression as he walked to the center of the sea and stopped. Along the way, he felt a strange bitterness in his heart. His mind was filled with all the bitterness he had suffered in the past few years. This was especially so for Lu Ryue. She seemed to follow him like a shadow. He could not obtain her in secret. The pain of parting with love was indescribable. It was unbearable pain, nearly breaking down. No wonder no one could walk out. With every step, they had to endure the pain of nearly breaking down. Anyone would choose to turn back. Turning back was the shore. However, this shore was not the opposite shore. It was returning to the starting point. When Xiao Chen looked down, the seawater was still clear and pure. The 7 black mountains were reflected in the water. Everything looked very normal. However, there was no reflection of himself in the water. Xiao Chen thought of the blurry scenes of himself trapped in the water droplets. Every water droplet had his reflection. However, he could not see his reflection in the entire sea. When Xiao Chen thought about the distance to the Sea of Bitterness that many of the Hidden Spirit Temple disciples mentioned, he realized that they were all different. Xiao Chen already understood that this was not a sea of bitterness but the sea in everyone's heart. The thousands of bitterness in one's heart condensed into a sea. If one wanted to go up the Black Mountains, one had to walk out of this sea of bitterness in one's heart. That was why he could explain why every single water droplet had his reflection trapped in it, but the entire surface of the sea did not have his reflection. This was because this sea was Xiao Chen himself. How could it reflect him? Why did no one walk out? This was because they could not comprehend this. They could not realize that they were in an illusion, trapped in the sea of bitterness in their hearts. If one knew this, it would be easy to walk out. As for how to break out, one had to close one's eyes and observe one's heart. When one saw the sea in one's heart, one would naturally be able to walk out of the sea in one's heart. This was because Xiao Chen was not in any sea of bitterness at all. It was just an illusion that trapped him in his own sea of bitterness. Whoosh! When Xiao Chen opened his eyes again, he discovered that he was already at the foot of the Black Mountain. When Xiao Chen turned his head back, he saw an indistinct expressionless Buddha statue in the distance. Xiao Chen smiled faintly, knowing that he had managed to walk out. After checking his surroundings and confirming that he was at the foot of the 3rd Black Mountain from the left, Xiao Chen relaxed. Flowers bloomed at the foot of the Black Mountain. To think that rare and beautiful flowers bloomed at the foot of the Black Mountain in this sinful land. These are blood spirit flowers. Xiao Chen felt slightly stunned. He had seen these flowers before. The blood spirit flowers contained a pure demonic nature, a natural tonic for demonic Tao cultivators. However, this was not important. What was important was that these blood spirit flowers bloomed exceptionally beautifully. They had existed for at least 10,000 years. When Xiao Chen looked around, he saw that the entire Black Mountain was covered in similar strange flowers and plants. The blood spirit flowers at the foot of the mountain were just the lowest ranked ones. What a treasure mountain! Xiao Chen muttered to himself. He rejoiced in his heart. Now that he cultivated both martial and spiritual energy, he could switch divine energy freely. Be it spiritual energy divine energy or demonic energy divine energy, it made no difference to him. These natural treasures that the monks of the Hidden Spirit Temple avoided were supreme treasures in Xiao Chen's eyes. What was even more delightful was that no one had come to this place for a very long time already. Even if someone came, they probably did not touch these demonic flowers or demonic fruits. Xiao Chen swept his gaze through the blood spirit flowers. Finally, his gaze landed on an eye-catching blood spirit fruit. Blood spirit flowers were extremely rare. However, it was even more difficult to harvest them. It was not easy to obtain a blood spirit fruit. Now, with a casual glance, Xiao Chen actually saw a blood spirit fruit. The 10,000-year-old blood spirit flowers that other demonic Tao cultivators considered supreme treasures. However, Xiao Chen did not even bother looking at them, directly picking this blood spirit fruit. After plucking this blood spirit fruit, Xiao Chen thought for a while before swallowing it. Then, he sat down cross-legged and quickly circulated his demonic cloud heaven swallowing art. The spiritual energy from the blood spirit fruit flowed endlessly into Xiao Chen's divine energy sea like a gushing river. After about 15 minutes, Xiao Chen completely refined the medicinal properties of the blood spirit fruit. When Xiao Chen opened his eyes, a spiritual light flickered in them. This blood spirit fruit was at least 10,000 years old. With this, Xiao Chen's cultivation improved by 10%. After all, Xiao Chen was now a two-vein sovereign emperor. Raising his cultivation by 10% in 15 minutes showed how horrifying it was. However, when Xiaochen looked at the demonic flowers and demonic fruits covering the mountain, he felt that this was nothing. If he absorbed all of them, it would be normal for him to advance to 3-vein sovereign emperor within a short time. Even if I did not find the saber manual on this trip, I still gained a lot. Xiaochen stood up with a faint smile on his face. These demonic flowers covering the mountain were a huge pleasant surprise. Venerable Su Yun and Abbot Su Yi probably did not expect such a surprise. Xiaochen thought to himself, I do not have much time left. I can only absorb the most precious of these demonic flowers and demonic fruits. I absolutely cannot touch them unless they are 10,000-year-old or older. That would be a waste of time. After making up his mind, Xiaochen started a frenzied search on this mountain. He did not know if these demonic flowers and demonic fruits would still be effective after leaving the Black Peak. In a mere 2 days, Xiaochen's cultivation soared rapidly, climbing all the way to peak 2-vein sovereign emperor. It looked like Xiaochen was about to break through his bottleneck and break through his bottleneck. Xiaochen advanced to 3-vein sovereign emperor by relying on these demonic flowers covering the mountain. However, Venerable Su Yun and Abbot Su Yi, who were on Spirit Vulture Mountain, started to feel anxious. As Xiaochen frantically hunted, cracks actually appeared on the peak of Spirit Vulture Mountain, which was filled with auspicious signs. To think that he did not think of this. We cannot let him continue. The Black Peak has lost too much of its demonic nature. The balance between good and evil will be lost. Chapter 2269. Whoosh! Before Xiaochen, who was already a 2-vein sovereign emperor, could continue searching for 10,000-year-old demonic fruits to break through, a strong force pulled him out of the Black Mountain. An irresistible force pulled him out of the Black Mountain. When Xiaochen recovered his vision, he looked around and was surprised to discover that he had appeared at the summit of Spirit Vulture Mountain. He had actually appeared at the peak of the Spirit Vulture Mountain, and right beside him was the golden body of the Kasyapa Buddha, which was as tall as a mountain. In comparison, Xiaochen was as weak as an ant. When Xiaochen looked back, he saw Venerable Su Yun and Abbot Su Yi looking at Xiaochen uneasily. Xiaochen's eyes lit up like he understood something. After some thought, he said, Seniors, this junior's time to leave the Black Mountain should not be up yet. If I remember correctly, there is still at least 1 more day. Venerable Su Yun said awkwardly, That's right. Benefactor Zhao's time is not up yet. Then, why did you pull me out in advance? Xiaochen felt very upset. If he had stayed another day, he would have broken through the 2-vein sovereign emperor bottleneck and reached 3-vein sovereign emperor. Being forcefully pulled out of a bottleneck while being stuck at it was not a good feeling. Abbot Su Yi laughed, ha ha ha. Benefactor is joking. This is the saber manual that Benefactor wants. You have already passed the test. There is no need for you to remain on the Black Mountain. Right after Abbot Su Yi spoke, he handed a jade strip to Xiaochen without saying anything. Xiaochen received the jade strip, feeling somewhat confused, not understanding its meaning. That's it, then. Benefactor, please leave the mountain. I'll leave the Azure Lotus Church's matters in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb to Benefactor Xiao. Before Xiaochen could say anything, Venerable Su Yun had already asked him to leave. But, Venerable Su Yun supported Xiaochen and smiled. There are no buts. Don't you want the saber manual? I already gave it to you, so there are no buts. Come, I'll send Benefactor Xiao off. Without giving Xiaochen a chance to speak, the 2 Buddhist sect powerhouses forcefully sent Xiaochen out of Spirit Vulture Mountain. After they left, they all heaved a sigh of relief, feeling extremely exhausted. How stupid. To think that he did not think of this. He dual cultivates martial Dao and demonic Dao. Entering the Black Mountain is like a wolf entering a flock of sheep. If we let him stay here for a moment longer, the balance of good and evil will be lost. I really don't know what kind of disaster it will cause. Venerable Su Yun sighed softly as he looked at the auspicious signs in the sky above Spirit Vulture Mountain slowly mending. A trace of doubt appeared in Abbot Suye's eyes. He asked, "Junior brother, have you ever thought about why the two of us made such a mistake?" "That's right. With our intelligence, logically speaking, we should have noticed this. Leaving out such a huge piece of information might be excusable for others, but anyone with a meticulous mind would make mistakes." However, to Su Yun and Su Yi, this was not right. The two of them were faux god realm cultivators. Everything, no matter how big or small, would be imprinted in his mind. It was impossible for him to miss the information about Xiao Chen's demonic arts. Suddenly, horror flashed in Venerable Su Yun's eyes. He said sullenly, "Could it be that he already broke the shackles of dual cultivating martial Dao and demonic Dao, causing us to forget that he cultivated a demonic cultivation technique? Dual cultivating martial Dao and demonic Dao gets harder the further one goes. It is a dead end. Even the Kasyapa Buddha gave up on his demonic Dao and demonic Dao the moment he became a Buddha. Since ancient times, no one has been able to completely merge martial Dao and demonic Dao." Abbot Suyi said softly, "If that is really the case, then it is somewhat terrifying. A person who can completely merge martial Dao and demonic Dao is equivalent to breaking the shackles of the entire martial epoch. It looks like the martial epoch is truly at its end. Signs of it are appearing one after another." The two Buddhist sect faux god powerhouses appeared somewhat worried, showing grave expressions. Xiao Chen, who had already descended the mountain, felt confused as he held the jade strip in his hand. Why did they give me the Mahamaya abstinence violation saber technique saber manual for nothing? These two should not be that kind. If they really wanted to give me the saber manual, Abbot Suyi would not have let Xiao Chen risk his life in the dark world from the start. Clearly, Abbot Suyi was trying to put on a show. "It was not that I did not want to give you the saber manual. I gave you the opportunity, but you did not fight for it. You cannot blame me." However, when Xiao Chen's cultivation advanced rapidly on the Black Peak, he nearly forgot about the saber manual. The two forcefully pulled him out and stuffed him with the saber manual. Then, they chased him down the mountain without any explanation. Strange. Xiao Chen shook his head and stopped thinking. Although he did not break through the two-vein sovereign emperor bottleneck in the end, he gained a fortuitous encounter for no reason. This allowed his cultivation to reach peak two-vein sovereign emperor and obtained a saber manual. No matter what, Xiao Chen gained a lot from this trip to the Hidden Spirit Temple. It is time to return to the Misty Rain Pavilion. It has been less than half a month. I wonder what happened to these people after that huge commotion. Xiao Chen muttered to himself as he prepared to rush back to the Misty Rain Pavilion. Just at this moment, a figure flickered endlessly in the air before landing firmly in front of Xiao Chen. "Benefactor Xiao, how have you been?" The person who arrived turned around. It was the mysterious Yuan Zhen that Xiao Chen had not seen for a long time. According to Su Yun and Su Yi, they did not know that Yuan Zhen already had an ethereal immortal palace key. This person was somewhat mysterious. "I'm fine. Brother Yuan Zhen, why are you here?" Xiao Chen replied casually. However, he kept his guard up and spread out his spiritual sense in all directions. "Ha! Brother Xiao, there is no need to be so nervous. No one below Spirit Vulture Mountain dares to touch Benefactor Xiao. Furthermore, everyone in the imperial capital knows that you are the 9th prince's guest. Who would dare to touch you?" Yuan Zhen said softly with narrowed eyes. Xiao Chen felt excited. The competition for the prince's guests should have reached its most intense stage in the past half a month. Unexpectedly, the 9th prince took the initiative to announce that Xiao Chen was his guest. "Brother Yuan Zhen, there is no need to worry. I am just cautious by nature. However, as far as I know, the Hidden Spirit Temple disciples cannot become the prince's guests. Why is Brother Yuan Zhen so concerned about the succession race?" Xiao Chen probed, wanting to see if he could glean something from Yuan Zhen's expression. Yuan Zhen did not appear surprised when he heard that. "It looks like Brother Xiao learned a lot on this trip to the Hidden Spirit Temple. Indeed, the Hidden Spirit Temple disciples cannot become guests. However, the succession race is now the focus of the entire city. Nearly all the sovereign emperors under 500 years old in the entire Great Thousand Realms have gathered in Yen City. I know about this. At this point, Yuanjun paused for a moment. Then, he smiled and said, Brother Xiao, there might be some trouble when you return. Right now, the competition for the position of a prince's guest is rather scary. Many thanks for the reminder. How are my friends in the Misty Rain Pavilion doing? The other party seemed to know a lot. So, Xiaochen asked about the things that he was more concerned about. After the wedding, the first prince was unable to recover, and his momentum plummeted. Now, the three princes are back at the starting line. Now, they are busy with the succession race and cannot care about anything else. Furthermore, everyone saw the relationship between the Sword God and Pavilion Master Su. Who would dare to touch the Misty Rain Pavilion? Xiaochen heaved a sigh of relief. That's good. However, after saying so much, why are you here? Me? Yuanjun replied softly, I'm just here to see you. I want to know how much your strength has improved since you left the dark world. In the end? It looks like you crossed that sea and ascended the Black Peak. Otherwise, your strength would not have improved in such a short time. A bright light flickered in the depths of Yuanjun's eyes. He keenly noticed Xiaochen's improvement. You seem to understand a lot about the dark world, Xiaochen said, not denying it. If we were to become enemies one day, would you kill me? Yuanjun suddenly changed the topic and asked this question. Xiaochen glanced at the other party and replied calmly, I will. In that case, I can rest assured, because I will as well. Please don't show mercy. Yuanjun narrowed his eyes slightly, revealing a smile on his face. Xiaochen could not tell if he was sad or happy. Take care. I won't send you off. Yuanjun pressed his palms together and bowed slightly. Then, he turned and left. Xiaochen entered deep thought. After speaking for so long, what Yuanjun truly wanted to ask should be the last question. It looks like the other party will most likely enter the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. However, why does this feel somewhat strange? If they really become enemies, why did Yuanjun ask this? This was equivalent to reminding Xiaochen. You have to be careful. The next time we meet, I will kill you. This person is really a mystery. Xiaochen shook his head and sighed softly. Since the first time he met this person, he had never truly figured out the other party. Before the sky turned dark, Xiaochen returned to the Misty Rain Pavilion. Although he had expected that Chu Chaoyun, Ao Jiao, and the Heavenly Fragrance's holy daughter had already left, he still felt it was unfortunate. When Siyi learned that Xiaochen had returned, she rushed over. After some thought, she said, Xiaochen, the Heavenly Book Scholar has been waiting for you for 7 days already. Alright, I'll go and meet him. What a fellow. He is really patient. To think that he waited for 7 days. Chapter 2270. Since the Heavenly Book Scholar was here, it had to be about the succession race in the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. Under Su Ye's lead, Xiaochen met the Heavenly Book Scholar in the Misty Rain Pavilion. The Heavenly Book Scholar was alone, the 9th prince was not by his side. Xiaochen, I waited for you for 7 days, the Heavenly Book Scholar said with a faint smile. The Heavenly Book Scholar smiled faintly. Then, he sized up Xiaochen as if he was estimating his strength. Xiaochen said calmly, it looks like there is indeed something important. Otherwise, you would not have waited for so long. Speak, then. The Heavenly Book Scholar nodded and said, there is still 1 more month. The various princes will be heading to the palace to fight for the slots for their guests to enter the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. The number of slots determined how many guests one could bring into the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. It practically affected the outcome of the succession race. How are the slots for the various princes determined? Xiaochen asked. The Heavenly Book Scholar explained, it is like this. Every prince has 7 basic slots. Then, some more slots are added based on the support of the feudal lords, noble clans, and sects in the Yanwu dynasty. Thanks to you, the first prince's wedding was spoiled, reducing the support of the feudal lords and noble clans. However, the first prince, the 8th prince, and the 13th prince still have the most slots. The first prince already has 16 slots, while the 8th prince and the 15th prince each have 13. The other princes have different slots, but most of them do not exceed 10. The 9th prince only has 8 slots. Xiaochen thought to himself, the first prince's faction is really horrifying. If I had not ruined that wedding, I would not have been able to deal with him. If he had not spoiled the wedding, the 9th prince would have been able to bring more than 20 slots into the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Now, he still has 16 slots. The 9th prince's slots are pitifully few. To think that he only has one more slot on top of the base. In that case, what is going on with the slots 3 days from now? The Heavenly Book scholar explained, the slots 3 days from now is the last chance for all the princes. The princes will draw lots to decide who will fight. The winners will obtain a slot. However, the losers will lose a slot. When Xiaochen heard that, he felt that something was wrong. He said softly, "What a cruel competition. This will probably increase the advantage of the top 3 princes." That's right. This mechanism isn't exactly fair, but that's exactly what the royal family wants. It's to make the strong stronger and the weak weaker. There's no need for the princes who are there to join in the fun to take up extra slots. The Heavenly Book scholar nodded, agreeing with Xiaochen's point of view. Then, he added some of his own thoughts. What does the 9th prince mean? The 9th prince wants you to accompany him to the imperial palace to fight for the final spots. This matter is very important. However, I did not know when you would return, so I waited in this misty rain pavilion. The Heavenly Book scholar explained the whole story. Then, he looked at Xiaochen and waited for his answer. Xiaochen pondered for a moment before replying softly, "No problem. However, if I win, I want to keep this spot for myself." The Heavenly Book scholar frowned slightly. "You want your friend to enter the ancient Yan Emperor tomb?" The ancient Yan Emperor tomb was a land of fortuitous encounters with many inheritances. As long as one's luck was not bad, one would gain something after entering. The ancient Yan Emperor tomb held great attraction for sovereign emperors. Hence, all the sovereign emperors of the entire martial epoch rushed to the imperial capital Yan City. Hence, this slot was not just a slot but represented many things. The Heavenly Book scholar said, "I can promise you this on behalf of the 9th prince. The 9th prince mainly wants to ensure that he does not lose his slot. As long as you win, the slot will be yours." "Good. It's a deal, then. In that case, I'll take my leave first. If you have time, please rush to the prince's residence as soon as possible." After sending off the Heavenly Book scholar, Xiaochen entered deep thought. After a while, he got Si to gather Wu Meng, Mo Chen, and the others. Wu Meng, Yun Fei, Mo Chen, and the others gathered at the top floor of the Misty Rain Pavilion. Xiaochen told everyone about his participation in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. "What do you think about the succession race?" Xiaochen asked. Wu Meng immediately replied, "Right now, the favorites are still the first prince, the 8th prince, and the 13th prince. Although the first prince's prestige has declined, his accumulations are still there and cannot be underestimated. Actually, the 9th prince does not have much of a chance of becoming the crown prince." Mo Chen asked softly, "Big brother Xiao, does the Heavenly Alliance's headquarters know that you support the 9th prince?" Xiaochen nodded. "After I decided to support the 9th prince, I secretly told Lord Mu Zifeng. He did not have any objections. He only said that I will handle the Yanwu dynasty's matters and that there is no need to be overly cautious. Given that, it looks like the Heavenly Alliance is somewhat indifferent to this succession race. This is really strange." Confusion flashed in Mo Chen's eyes, appearing somewhat confused. Suyi said, "The headquarters are just empty words. The important thing is, Lord Xiao, what do you want to achieve? How can we help you?" As for the Heavenly Alliance's headquarters, they definitely have their own views on this matter. Since they did not let us know, they must have their own reasons. There is no need to care about it for now. Xiaochen thought about it and agreed. The Heavenly Alliance's headquarters would definitely not miss out on such a big show. However, he did not know what the Heavenly Alliance's headquarters thought, which was somewhat difficult to understand. After some thought, Xiaochen said, "Naturally, my first goal is the Wings of Time. The second goal is to support the 9th prince as the crown prince. As for the third goal, let's not talk about it for now." However, when Xiaochen mentioned the third eye, Siyi noticed a faint murderous intent in Xiaochen's eyes. She nodded and said, "I understand. I will get the Misty Rain Pavilion to gather information about the Ethereal Immortal Palace's key in Yen City. The various merchant associations affiliated to the Misty Rain Pavilion will also do their best to support the 9th prince, helping him recruit more capable guests." Xiaochen nodded slightly. The sovereign emperors who came to participate in the selection of guests could not be considered true experts. The various princes had already promised great benefits to the true experts, personally seeking an audience and taking the initiative to recruit them. The 9th prince frequently led troops to fight enemies. It was hard to say how many resources and connections the 9th prince had in the imperial capital. With the Misty Rain Pavilion's help, the quality of the 9th prince's guests should rise to another level. Let's do this for now. Mo Chen and Bao calculate how many resources we can use. The main ones are resources that can attract sovereign emperors. We can ignore the others. As for Su Yi, come with me to the 9th prince's residence tomorrow to meet the 9th prince personally. Xiaochen paused for a moment. Then, he looked at Wu Meng and the others and said, "You should make your preparations as well. I will choose one of you to enter the ancient Yen Emperor tomb with me." "Ha! I feel that there is no need to prepare anything. Big Brother Wu is the strongest among us. Given his strength, he can hold his own against a great perfection sovereign emperor. The others will not be able to help Brother Xiao much." Yun Fei spoke the truth, not taking it too seriously. Talent mattered to cultivators. With the same amount of resources and effort, the one with the most talent would definitely improve faster. Wu Meng's talent was at the peak of the entire Heavenly Alliance's younger generation. Without the restrictions of the headquarters, Wu Meng could rely on the resources of the branches to increase his strength rapidly. Wu Meng's cultivation was the same as Xiaochen's, a two-vein sovereign emperor. However, Yun Fei and the others were still one-vein sovereign emperors. There was already a significant gap between them. Good. Wu Meng will accompany me. It is settled, then. Xiaochen did not like to drag things out. In his heart, Wu Meng was his first choice. Naturally, Wu Meng had no reason to delay such an opportunity. After thanking Xiaochen, he prepared to enter closed-door cultivation. Early the next morning, just as the sun rose, Xiaochen and Siyi rushed to the 9th prince's residence. The 9th prince Wang Yan's residence was in the center of Yen City, adjacent to the imperial capital. This was where most of the prince's residences were. When Xiaochen approached the 9th prince's residence, he vaguely felt a vast energy guarding the surroundings, appearing transcendent. When Xiaochen stepped into the residence, it felt like he had entered someone else's small world. A hidden energy grasped his every move. Xiaochen knew that this energy definitely came from the imperial palace. That was the center of the entire dynasty. It would be hard to avoid some inexplicable energy existing there. These royal residences were adjacent to the imperial palace. Naturally, they were protected by this energy. Xiaochen. Just as the two were about to enter the 9th prince's residence, a familiar voice rang out. Xiaochen turned his head to look. It was the 8th Prince Wang Feng. A gray-clad old man from the Divine Sword Pavilion stood beside him. Xiaochen's eyes sank slightly. That old man's aura felt somewhat familiar to Xiaochen. Back then, in the Smiling Daughter Pavilions, Xiaochen was facing off against the three princes. Xiaochen felt that the Divine Sword Pavilion's older generation experts were sneak attacking him. It seemed to be this old man. Chapter 2271. What a coincidence, it's the 8th prince. Xiao Chen's expression was indifferent when he saw the person who had arrived. His gaze gently glanced and landed on the black-clothed old man beside him. That old man was a 5-veined sovereign emperor. However, he evaded Xiao Chen's gaze. The 8th prince Wang Feng inspected Xiao Chen, and he felt that the latter's strength was becoming more and more immeasurable. Xiao Chen's strength was much stronger than when he first arrived at the imperial capital. Although Xiao Chen was only a 2-veined sovereign emperor, he would be a powerful weapon in the fight against the crown prince if Xiao Chen could recruit him as a guest. Not to mention his strength, just by leading the Misty Rain Pavilion, he managed to mess up his big brother's wedding. It was a great recruitment value. Unfortunately, he had killed the beloved son of the Cloud Prince and was destined to be of no use to him. However, he had already formed an irreconcilable conflict with his eldest brother. At the end of the day, he could still make use of him. It would be best if he didn't start a feud now. The 8th prince Wang Feng immediately smiled and said, "Lord Xiao, if you have time, you can come to my royal residence for a chat. My royal residence is not far from 9th Brothers. You are welcome at any time." Xiao Chen knew what she was thinking, but he did not expose her. He looked at the old man beside her and asked, "Senior, are you not going to introduce us?" He is the deputy pavilion master of the Divine Sword Pavilion, Dao Yan. He is exactly 500 years old and can be considered my strongest guest this time. If Lord Xiao is interested in the sword Dao, you can discuss it with Senior Dao Yan. The 8th prince didn't hesitate and calmly introduced the items to everyone. Dao Yan said indifferently, "I have long heard of Lord Xiao's name. I welcome your guidance at any time." Just at this moment, the Heavenly Book Scholar and the 9th prince walked out of the prince's residence together. 8th brother. The 9th prince softly greeted Wang Feng when he saw him. The 9th prince was rather polite to Wang Feng. In reality, even if it was the 1st prince, as long as he did not work with the Green Lotus cult, he would not pay too much attention to him. "Congratulations, 9th brother. You managed to recruit Lord Xiao as your guest." The 8th prince faintly smiled and said these polite words. Wang Feng didn't care too much about the 9th prince because he wasn't a threat to him. Even if he recruited Xiao Chen, it would not affect the overall situation. His greatest opponents were still the 1st prince and the 13th prince. Even further down the list, the 9th prince would not be chosen, as he had almost zero influence in Yen City. If he couldn't recruit powerful guests, his overall strength would definitely be at the bottom. There were many such princes. They entered the ancient Yen Emperor tomb to seek fortuitous encounters. He wanted to increase his strength or raise his noble rank based on the fortuitous encounters in the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. After exchanging a few pleasantries, the 8th prince and Dao Yan left. Senior Dao Xian. After leaving, the 8th prince sensed something strange between Dao Yan and Xiao Chen, so he asked. Truth be told, the Divine Sword Pavilion's expert who tried to assassinate him in the Smiling Daughter Pavilion was me. Just now, he might have sensed something, but he shouldn't have confirmed it. Dao Yan pondered for a moment, but still confessed. The 8th prince laughed and said, "I was wondering what it was." Don't worry. Even if he knew, he probably wouldn't care too much, because he had a bigger enemy waiting to be dealt with. It's fine as long as we don't take the initiative to provoke him. This person's bottom line is very obvious, but I really don't know what his upper limit is. Don't worry. This old man knows his limits. When my Ice Dao domain improves further and I comprehend an ice small world, no one in the ancient Yen Emperor tomb will be a match for me. A mere Xiao Chen is even less of a threat to me. The 8th prince's ascension to the throne is of utmost importance. Dao Yan's eyes emitted a cold light that was as dazzling as the stars, bursting out with a terrifying fighting spirit. Right now, Xiao Chen was already a 5-veined sovereign emperor. If he had his ice small world, he would truly be unrivaled. A glimmer of excitement flashed in the 8th prince's eyes as he asked, "Are you confident?" Xiao Chen knew that Dao Yan had outstanding talent in the Ice Great Dao. He already had a 9th layer Ice Dao domain 100 years ago. However, Shaoqin had not expected Dao Yan to comprehend an ice small world before entering the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Vaguely, he seemed to feel that luck was slowly shifting from his big brother to himself. Great luck had come. 80%. Dao Yan said softly. Wang Feng was overjoyed. He smiled and said, "What resources do you need? I will arrange it. I will definitely satisfy you. The Divine Sword Pavilion does not lack resources. Your Highness, please wait for the news." No way. Since there is an 80% chance, I have to make it a 100% chance. In the end, the Divine Sword Pavilion's resources are slightly inferior to the royal court's. I still have one more chance to enter the Heavenly Palace's treasure trove, but I have not used it yet. I'll use it on Senior Dao Yan. The 8th prince's intentions were set in stone, not allowing Dao Yan to refuse. Dao Yan felt excited. He had heard of the Heavenly Palace's treasure trove before. That was where the royal court stored their treasures. The treasures that could enter the treasure trove were all priceless and incredibly rare. Dao Yan could not refuse. In that case, many thanks, 8th prince. Well said, well said. Come, let's go over. The 8th prince felt incredibly excited. He immediately changed his route and headed straight for the palace. Wang Yan and the Heavenly Fate scholar looked at Wang Feng and Dao Yan in front of the 9th prince's residence, entering deep thought. Seeing that Shaoqin seemed to be interested in Dao Yan, Wang Yan said, "That is Dao Yan. He was a true inheritor of the Divine Sword Pavilion 400 years ago. Before he turned 500 years old, he became the Divine Sword Pavilion's Vice Pavilion Master. Back then, he was a demonic genius that shook up the entire Yanwu dynasty. He remained in seclusion for several hundred years. When he suddenly appeared, people remembered that he was not even 500 years old yet." Shaoqin asked, "Is he very strong?" "Yes, very strong. Of all the prince's guests this time, this Dao Yan's strength is at least in the top 3. The scarier thing is that 8th brother's companions are all outstanding talents of similar sections. With the support of all the sects in the Yanwu dynasty, he does not need to spend much resources to recruit guests." When mentioning Wang Feng, the 9th prince had to admit that the other party was very strong. Sects and factions had at least 10,000 years of inheritance. They would not be lacking in resources. Not only would they not waste Wang Feng's resources, but they could even help him recruit some people with special abilities. After the 1st prince's wedding was ruined, the 9th prince could no longer suppress the 8th prince on paper. Now, they were back at the starting line. The Heavenly Book scholar smiled and said, "Let's not talk about this for now. Pavilion Master Su and Lord Xiao, please come in first." After entering the residence and discussing some important matters, Shaoqin said softly, "9th prince, this Xiao has something else to say aside from the fight for the slots in 1 month." "What is it?" Wang Yan let out a soft cry of surprise, finding it strange. Shaoqin said straightforwardly, "This Xiao would like to invite the 9th prince to fight for the crown prince position." Wang Yan smiled and said, "Naturally, I want to fight for the crown prince position. Otherwise, wouldn't it be a waste of time to recruit guests and ask Lord Xiao to fight for the final slot for me? You still do not understand what I mean. I want you to fight for the crown prince position from the bottom of your heart, to think about ascending to the Yan Emperor's throne, not to go through the motions like now. You are only going through the motions for the sake of the illusory ethereal immortal palace, reluctantly entering the ancient Yan Emperor tomb to attack the 1st prince." Shaoqin directly exposed Wang Yan's self-deception. Wang Yan had never truly thought of fighting for the crown prince position. From the way he talked about the Dao Yan earlier, it was clear that he had no ambition. To think that Wang Yan did not care about the 8th prince at all, not feeling any pressure at all. Wang Yan's expression flickered. Then, he looked at Shaoqin and said, "Ha! It looks like I misjudged you earlier. Shaoqin, you are just an ordinary person. It turns out that you only agreed to my request to fight for fame and profit. Xiaochen smiled coldly and interrupted, misjudged. What's wrong? Previously, you felt that I did not care about fame and profit, that I was a person who did not have much ambition even though I dual cultivated righteous and demonic. If you let me into the ancient Yan Emperor tomb, I would not cause any losses to the dynasty, right? The sudden change in the atmosphere somewhat surprised the heavenly book scholar. He quickly said, Xiaochen, the ninth prince did not mean that. Don't speak up for him. When I first met you, I did not truly leave. I clearly heard what the ninth prince said to you. I am not his best choice. He simply could not find anyone. In the end, he had no choice but to seek my help. If he could, he would definitely choose someone purely of the righteous Tao. Am I right? Xiaochen showed a calm expression as he looked straight at the ninth prince. The expressions of the heavenly book scholar and the ninth prince immediately changed. They did not know how to respond. Nothing to say. In that case, let me say it. From the very start, I knew why you sought me out. I do not care about the suspicions in your heart. As long as you can help me, that is enough. I do not care who becomes the Yan Emperor. What does that have to do with me? Xiaochen did not stop speaking. He continued, however, I have a grudge with the first prince. We are at a point where only one of us can survive. Yet, you are still like an ostrich. What use do I have for you? If he ascends to the throne, I will not be able to escape death. I will have to flee the Yanwu dynasty. If I were alone, I would not care. However, I still have friends. Pavilion Master Su will not be able to leave. My merchant associations will not be able to leave either. What about them? If even one of them dies, I, Xiaochen, will not be able to accept it. At the mention of death, Xiaochen could not control his emotions. He looked at the ninth prince and said sullenly, I'll say something unpleasant. If you had the status of the 8th prince or the 13th prince, would Wang Fei dare to touch my martial nephew? Would my martial nephew die in such an unjust manner? I, Xiaochen, am just that vulgar. Are you satisfied now? When Suyi saw that Xiaochen seemed to lose control of his emotions, she quickly stepped forward and pressed on his hand, comforting him softly. Back then, she had rushed out of the city with Xiaochen. Only she knew this the best. Xiaochen had never let go of Ling Yu's death. Back then, Ling Yu's death had dealt a greater psychological blow to Xiaochen than many people imagined. Xiaochen did not say anything because he did not want others to worry. However, the frustration and helplessness in his heart never faded. With every day that passed, this burden grew 100 times heavier. When the ninth prince saw Xiaochen's expression, he felt somewhat startled. After knowing Xiaochen for so long, he had rarely seen the ninth prince so angry. It was rare to see him so angry. Usually, no matter how angry he would never show it on his face. The ninth prince always remained calm, giving off an unfathomable feeling. However, when the ninth prince truly revealed his rage, his aura was somewhat frightening. Chapter 2272. The atmosphere turned somewhat heavy. The ninth prince had not expected Xiaochen's outburst at all. The heavenly book scholar was stunned for a long time at the side before reacting. Honestly speaking, Xiaochen's words were overboard. However, when he thought about it carefully, he felt that it made sense. The ninth prince could be a good person. Even if he did not try to become the crown prince, Wang Fei would not dare to kill him due to their blood relationship. However, Xiaochen was different. He did not have such a status to protect himself and his friends. Once the first prince succeeded in ascending to the throne, it would be extremely disadvantageous to Xiaochen. He might even have to pay a heavy price. In terms of transactions, the ninth prince was clearly thinking of himself in this transaction. The ninth prince only thought about using the key in Xiaochen's hands to prevent the demonic Tao cultivators from obtaining the wings of time if the ethereal immortal palace appeared. The ninth prince had never thought about what Xiaochen would do if the first prince ascended to the throne. To Xiaochen, this was unfair. Why should he help such a selfish person? What is the point of having you? The ninth prince's words sounded harsh, but they were not overboard at all. This was the truth. After speaking, Xiaochen appeared somewhat confused. Earlier, he actually wanted to kill the ninth prince. Now, he wanted to kill the ninth prince, even blaming some of his resentment on the ninth prince. If not for Suyi pressing down on his hand, who knew what would have happened? After Xiaochen calmed down, he was distracted for a while, appearing somewhat dispirited. He felt a deep helplessness. He had never felt so cowardly before. To think that he could say such shameless words, shifting the blame to someone else. This was simply laughably childish. Sorry for the offense earlier, Your Highness. No matter what, my martial nephew's death has nothing to do with the ninth prince. I will apologize in the future. Suyi, let's go. Wait a moment. The ninth prince quickly called out to Xiaochen. Then, he stood up and said, Lord Xiao, there is no need to blame yourself. You are right. If I had the same status as Little 13, first brother would not have dared to touch Lord Zhao's martial nephew. I have always been thinking about how to contribute to the dynasty, how to stop the demonic Dao cultivators. I was indeed eager for quick success and did not consider things from Lord Zhao's perspective. So? Xiaochen said softly without turning his head. If Lord Xiao is willing to become my guest, I am willing to do my best to fight for the position of Crown Prince. The ninth Prince Wang Yan said, enunciating each word with a grave expression. When the Heavenly Book scholar heard that, he trembled slightly. He knew that the ninth prince was a man of his word. Once he decided on something, he would not hesitate and go all out to execute it. However, it was completely different from his original intentions. The Heavenly Book scholar suddenly revealed a doubtful expression. Then, a pair of profound talisman seals formed in his eyes. The moment this seal appeared, he saw the general star above the ninth prince's head rapidly fall. Instead, the originally dim imperial star gradually glowed and rose. He had advised the ninth prince in the past. The ninth prince was a talented general who could lead an army to war and defend a region. However, he did not have the talent of an emperor, and his emperor's star was dim. Not to mention the three princes, he could not even compare to some of the other princes. However, the ninth prince's general star had suddenly fallen, and his emperor's star had risen. The sudden change in fate Dao was a strange situation that he had never seen before, but it really appeared in front of him today. How can it be? Is it because of me? The Heavenly Book scholar looked around and fixed his gaze on Xiaochen. However, the Heavenly Book scholar did not dare to try to advise Xiaochen's Emperor Star. Even if the Heavenly Book scholar were 10 times more courageous, he would not dare to try to advise Xiaochen's Emperor Star again. Ninth Prince, are you sure? Xiaochen asked softly as he turned to look at Wang Yan. I'm sure. Wang Yan replied softly, as the saying goes, one word is like a wake-up call. Most of the time, I do not like to take the initiative to resolve problems. I only want to wait for problems to appear before thinking of a way to resolve them. I never thought of taking the initiative to control everything. Even if I manage to stop First Brother this time, what about next time? There will always be times when I cannot guard against it. You are right. I have indeed been deceiving myself. Suyi exchanged glances with Xiaochen. When she saw the other party nod slightly, she said, as long as the ninth prince says it, the Misty Rain Pavilion will do its best to help the ninth prince seize the throne at all costs. Many thanks. However, even if I am determined to become the crown prince and have the Misty Rain Pavilion's help, my chances of victory are still very slim. I would also like to ask, Lord Xiao, have you really thought it through? Wang Yan countered with a question, his expression slowly turning calm on his handsome face. Xiaochen replied softly, I always felt that as long as you fought for it, you would have a 50% chance of success. If you did not fight for it, you would not even have a 10% chance. That was how you were previously. You did not even give me a 10% chance. Even if I did my best, I would not have any chance of success. Do you understand what I mean? I understand. Good. I will enter closed-door cultivation during this period. You can discuss the matter of recruiting guests with Pavilion Master Su. There is no need to worry about resources. As long as you do your best, I have nothing to say if you fail, the ninth prince said after some thought. The ninth prince said after some thought, if you are going to enter closed-door cultivation, then do it at my residence. I have the best closed-door cultivation room of the royal clan. The spiritual energy here is incomparable to anywhere else. You can experience the wonders for yourself. Alright, I will stay here, then. Xiaochen did not stand on ceremony, directly agreeing. After entering the secret realm of the residence, Xiaochen entered closed-door cultivation. Compared to the other prince's guests, Xiaochen's cultivation was still too low. Most of the guests that entered the ancient Yan Emperor tomb were sovereign emperors several hundred years old. There was no lack of older generation demonic geniuses like Dao Yan. When they were young, they had pretty good talent and sufficient resources. Furthermore, with their accumulations over time, there would definitely not be any weaklings. Among them, there might be some experts skilled in a great Dao. By relying on the accumulation of time and hundreds of years, they could condense a small world expert. A great perfection sovereign emperor who could condense a small world was definitely an anomaly that could fight a peak sovereign emperor. There would not be many of such people, at most 4 or 5. However, just one of them would be practically unrivaled in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. When facing such an expert, Xiaochen had to think about the resources he could use. My cultivation has already soared. It is practically impossible for me to break through to 3-vein sovereign emperor within a short time. I can't raise my cultivation. If I want to raise my strength, I can only think in other directions. Xiaochen entered deep thought. After a while, he thought of 3 directions. The first was the Thunder Dao. After refining the 100,000-year-old Thunder Cliff tree, his Thunder Dao domain had already reached the 5th layer. Of all the Dao domains, the Thunder Dao was the highest. With the support of the alloy dragon armor, his 5th layer Dao domain could rival a 6th layer Dao domain in might. With the support of the Saber Dao domain and the Ice Dao domain, it could rival a 9th layer Dao domain. He possessed 3 Dao domains, all of which were condensed in his divine seal. This was extremely rare among sovereign emperors. The might of the 3 Dao domains far surpassed that of a single Dao domain, extremely horrifying. However, it was still somewhat insufficient. I still have to add this. Xiaochen opened his palm, and a golden divine lightning talisman slowly came out. Xiaochen's palm seemed to turn into a boundless sea. The golden talisman gave off a bright electric light. However, none of it leaked out of his palm. The immortal epoc's thunder immortal ancestor had condensed the 10,000 tribulation divine lightning from the immortal epoch. The talisman in Xiaochen's hand had only used 1/10 of its power, but its might was already terrifying. The talisman in his hand had already been firmly branded into his blue dragon divine seal, and it had perfectly fused with his soul power. As long as he willed it, his soul power would erupt, and he would be able to release the tribulation lightning within the divine lightning talisman. Compared to the god of lightning eye of the past, it was much more profound. However, now, Xiaochen wanted to go further. He wanted to infuse the talisman in his palm into his Thunder Dao domain. Then, the 3-layered Dao domains, supported by the alloy dragon armor, formed a Dao domain that could resist a small world. Xiao. After confirming the direction, Xiaochen put away the divine thunder talisman and a scroll appeared in his palm. It was the Taiji Yin-Yang diagram. Ever since the Taiji Yin-Yang diagram was condensed into a painting, the Taiji Yin-Yang diagram had become a painting. Ever since the Taiji Yin-Yang diagram condensed into a scroll, Xiaochen rarely used it. Now, it was time for him to do so. This would be his strongest defensive means. He wanted to raise the Heavenly Snow Divine Flame and the Primal Chaos Heavenly Flame to rank 7 within 1 month. They would become his second trump card. The third trump card was the Mahamaya Abstinence Violation Saber Technique, Merciless Killing. If Heaven wanted to kill, who would dare to not die? As for the final Dragon's Gate's forbidden art, the god-demon body unsealing technique, it was best not to use it. Hence, once he used it, even Shao Chen would not be able to control the consequences. Aside from this, there was the improvement of the 10,000 Dragons art. The ninth prince was right. This secret realm of the royal residence was indeed pretty good. The spiritual energy here was far denser than that of the outside world. It was like the dragon vein buried deep in the royal palace connected to these royal residences. Cultivating here would go smoothly and incomparably miraculous. After determining his direction, Shao Chen muttered to himself, "These are trump cards that can temporarily raise my combat prowess. As for the Supreme Dragon Fist and Firmament's Rage, I have to stabilize them first." While Shao Chen was in closed-door cultivation, the various royal residences outside the royal palace were not peaceful. The era of great competition in the Yanwu dynasty had arrived without anyone noticing. Chapter 2273. Thunder Mark Grass, Thunder Spirit Blood Ganoderma, Demonic Cloud Flower, Black Thunder Fruit. Shao Chen took out the other demonic fruits mentioned on the Black Mountain from his storage ring. These demonic fruits could not increase one's cultivation. Hence, he did not refine them that day. However, they were very valuable, so he kept them when he saw them. Every one of them contained pure thunder great Tao energy. However, they were all tainted with a demonic nature. To demonic Tao cultivators, they were supreme treasures with boundless value. Righteous Tao cultivators needed lunar water to wash away the demonic nature before they could refine them. As for Shao Chen, he did not have to worry too much. He directly consumed the natural treasures that no one cared about on the Black Mountain. If other demonic Tao cultivators were here, they would definitely exclaim in shock. This was too wasteful. Naturally, these incredibly precious herbs had to be refined into heavenly pills to ensure that their medicinal properties would not scatter. However, Shao Chen did not have any worries, as these things cost nothing to him. After Shao Chen consumed the many demonic nature pills, his entire body erupted with black lightning fire. The aura of the Thunder Great Tao in his body continuously soared, and he slowly broke through to the fourth layer of the Thunder Tao domain. Right now, the Thunder Tao was Shao Chen's strongest and most powerful foundation. He wanted to advance it to the next layer and see if his Thunder Tao domain could break through to the fifth layer. At that time, with the support of the alloy dragon armor, it would be even more horrifying. 7 days later, Shao Chen opened his eyes, an electric light flickered in them. His entire body radiated a terrifying Thunder Tao might. Unfortunately, I am still a little short. However, I managed to solidify my Thunder Tao domain to the peak of the fourth layer. All I need is an opportunity to break through. After spitting out a mouthful of turbid qi, Shao Chen muttered to himself, I should try it out next. Just how powerful was his pinnacle lightning Tao? The secret realm was a small world. Even if he caused a commotion here, there would not be any commotion in the outside world. Whoosh! Shao Chen stood up, and his figure flashed. Then, he arrived at the center of this small world, a vast and boundless land with undulating desolate mountains. Bang! 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 An electric dragon image came out of the black gloves on Shao Chen's hands. It circled around Shao Chen's arm and spread to his whole body. Then, the two dragons merged. Purple dragon patterns appeared on his silver armor, and a pendant made of a reverse dragon scale hung between his eyebrows. Shao Chen's entire aura changed. It was the alloy dragon armor that belonged solely to Shao Chen. With a thought, his peak fourth layer Thunder Tao domain appeared. A horrifying Tao might filled the sky with thunderclouds. Break! Dragon patterns flickered on the armor. The dragon's soul contained in the armor activated the formations in it, bringing out a peak fourth layer Tao domain. Suddenly, it rose another level, reaching the peak of the fifth level. Ice Tao domain. Shao Chen shouted, and his second layer Ice Tao domain appeared. Immediately, heavy snow flew, and cold winds blew endlessly. The might of the Wei rose again, reaching the sixth layer. Saber Tao domain. Boom! the three Tao domains layered over each other. Shao Qian was like a powerful treasure saber standing in the world. The Tao might emanating from his body broke through layer by layer. 7th layer, 8th layer, 9th layer. The might of the Tao reached the 9th layer. Still not enough. 10,000 tribulation divine lightning, appear. The blue dragon divine seal shone brightly in Shao Qian's soul pool. Undercurrents immediately surged in the vast soul pool. There seemed to be a true dragon leaping about. The talisman formed by the immortal epic's 10,000 tribulation divine lightning was like a dragon breaking out of the sea, revealing the tip of an iceberg. In that instant, the entire soul pool filled with golden electric light, filling every corner. A golden talisman slowly appeared in Shao Qian's palm. Rumble. As the golden talisman surged, the entire secret realm trembled. It seemed like horrifying energy was brewing in Shao Qian's body. Boom! When the golden talisman completely appeared, Shao Qian's Tao might underwent a complete transformation, undergoing a qualitative change. Now, it reached a might that only a 10th layer Tao domain could display. Under the guidance of the golden talisman in Shao Qian's palm, its might even surpassed that, looking incredibly horrifying. At this moment, Shao Qian felt like he grasped a surging power. Even this small world seemed weak in his eyes. With just a light touch, the sky of this mystic realm would shatter into pieces and crumble. Withdraw. The talisman in Shao Qian's soul pool, which had just revealed a small portion, vanished. The golden talisman returned to Shao Qian's palm. Then, the three Tao domains returned to his body, and the alloy dragon armor slipped off his body. In that instant, Shao Qian turned from the incredibly horrifying thunder god to a harmless two-veined sovereign emperor that looked like nothing special. I can release and withdraw at will. It looks like those demonic nature Tao fruits were of great help to me. If my thunder Tao domain had not reached the peak of the 4th layer, it would have been impossible for me to control this 10th layer Tao might. Shao Qian muttered to himself. At the same time, he felt that his strength had reached a bottleneck in all aspects. His cultivation was stuck at peak two-veined sovereign emperor. His thunder Tao domain was stuck at the peak of the 4th layer, unable to advance any further. His 10,000 dragons art was stuck at the peak of the 2nd layer, unable to break through to the 3rd layer and reach the stage of 10,000 dragons soaring. His saber technique was stuck at merciless killing, unable to reach consummation. His saber Tao domain was also hard to break through. Perhaps, the ancient Yan Emperor tomb is an opportunity for me to make a breakthrough in all aspects. A brilliant light flashed in Shao Qian's eyes. If he broke through these bottlenecks one by one, it would be a miracle. If Shao Qian broke through all these bottlenecks, his strength would undergo a true qualitative change. Even he could not imagine what it would be like. Let's not think about this for now. I'll stop here with the Thunder Tao domain for now. The next step is to properly refine the Taiji Yin-Yang flame diagram. Shao Qian collected his thoughts and looked at the painting in his hand, filled with anticipation. It was time to use the flame seeds that he had exchanged for with his military merits before leaving the Heavenly Alliance. If one looked at the imperial capital from the starry heavens, one would see the 4th prince's residence in the imperial palace radiating dragon chi. Draconic energy surged, and their eyes shone with radiance. They revealed their ambitions as they stared above the imperial palace. Above them was the true dragon sword formed by the imperial capital's dragon vein, the Yen imperial sword. Whoever could hold this treasure sword, which symbolized the supreme authority of the Yen Wu dynasty, would be the true dragon son of heaven, able to ascend to the Yen emperor's throne. At this moment, the aura of a great desolate Yen bloodline spread to every corner of the secret realm in the 13th prince's residence. Pairs of golden primordial divine eyes illuminated the sky, making it look like the sky was covered in gold. It was a shocking sight. At the summit of the highest mountain in the secret realm, the 13th Prince Wang Yi showed a smile as he looked at the golden sky, filled with lofty aspirations. Two old men stood beside the 13th Prince. One of them wore a straw raincoat and carried a fishing rod on his back, looking like a fisherman. This was the White Marsh Beast Empire's royal teacher, Sikong Shu. The other person wore silver dragon robes and exuded might without showing any anger. He gave off the faint air of kingship. This was the divine Dragon Empire's Silver Dragon King. Wang Yi said indifferently, "Seniors, we can begin now." The Silver Dragon King nodded slightly. Then, he shouted only one word, "Fight." This shout seemed to ignite the great desolate Aeon aura that filled the sky. Below, the vast world erupted with a startling battle intent. Many figures hidden in the dark appeared. Every one of them was a sovereign emperor and possessed a pure great desolate Aeon bloodline. A startling chaotic battle started. The Silver Dragon King smiled and said, "13th Prince, aside from the Golden Crow Empire, all the sovereign emperors under 500 years old have gathered here. The last 10 people to emerge from this chaotic battle will follow you to the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. Sovereign emperors with a great desolate Aeon bloodline are very strong in the first place, able to cross realms to kill enemies. Then, this old man can't think of any reason for the 13th prince not to be the crown prince." Wang Yi rejoiced when he heard that. He could not help guffawing. "Senior Silver Dragon King, you are right. This is brilliant. The Bushin Palace truly lives up to being a super faction with the deepest accumulations. Such combat prowess is truly shocking. However, I originally wanted to reserve 3 spots for Brother Qin Ming, Brother Bai Yunfei, and Brother Xiaohou." Unexpectedly, the 3 of them participated in the battle as well. Sikong Shu said indifferently, "The 3 of them are the strongest outstanding talents of the Bushin Palace. Even if they fight against the older generation outstanding talents several hundred years old, they will not be at a disadvantage. 13th Prince, don't worry. They will definitely be among the last 10 standing." A bright light flashed in Wang Yi's eyes. After some thought, he said, "Is that so? In that case, I really have to take a good look." There were at least 400 sovereign emperors gathered in the secret realm. This chaotic battle was very startling. The Bushin Palace ruled over the 8 great empires. Its deep accumulations were somewhat terrifying. As the Silver Dragon King said, every one of the sovereign emperors here was incredibly strong. Indeed, there was no reason for the Bushin Palace to lose when the 10 were chosen to fight in the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. However, the matters of the world were hard to predict. The ancient Yen Emperor tomb contained many variables. No one could guarantee that they would have the last laugh. The various princes anxiously recruited guests, choosing people with special talents. However, the secret realm of the first prince's mansion seemed a little strange. Inside the secret realm, Wang Fei showed a bored expression as he sat on the throne, downing cup after cup of wine. A middle-aged man, a 6-vein sovereign emperor, stood beside Wang Fei. He held a saber in his hand as he looked to the front with a grave expression. This person was Zui Yu, a peak expert that the Imperial Ancestral Temple's patriarchs nurtured in secret. The Imperial Ancestral Temple had been preparing for this succession race since several hundred years ago. This 6-vein sovereign emperor Zui Yu was the trump card that they carefully prepared for the first prince Wang Fei. A fortress ship with a blood moon banner hung in front of Zui Yu, anchored at the summit of a mountain range. The blood moon, this was the symbol of the Shuewu dynasty. A black-clad man whose cultivation was unfathomable stood in the hold of the fortress ship. He had an eye patch on the left side of his face, revealing his eye. If one were to look carefully, they would discover that there seemed to be a row of vermilion dots on the pupil of his left eye that was exposed under the eye patch. It was extremely strange. A man and a woman sat beside this black-clad man. Aside from them, the others stood behind these 3. The man on the left had a handsome face and a lotus-like air, showing a smile on his face. His elegant facial features nearly made people forget about his bald head and his identity as a monk. This was the previous Black Lotus Church Holy Son, the current Black Lotus sect venerate, Ming Xian. If Xiaochen were here, he would be shocked to see the woman on the right, thinking that Yang Qing came back to life. It would not be hard for those who paid attention to her to guess that she was the Azure Lotus Holy Daughter. At this moment, the focus was not on the 3 but on the person standing helplessly with his cultivation sealed. "Milord." I already searched his soul. He does not have any memories of the inheritance key in his mind. However, the black-clothed man with the mysterious left eye was dissatisfied. He looked at that person and muttered to himself, Jiang He, the only son of the previous heavenly dragon. If even he does not know the whereabouts of the inheritance key, wouldn't that mean that no one in this world knows? Chapter 2274. The mysterious and evil left eye and the deeply hidden temperament caused the man in black to feel a kind of fear from the bottom of his heart. Even Jiang He was no exception. Half a year ago, someone started chasing Jiang He. At first, he suspected that it was an assassin hired by the Golden Dragon Palace. However, he soon found out that it was the Shuawu dynasty's people. However, Jiang He did not care about it. He had a fortuitous encounter and obtained a movement technique that touched upon the space great Tao. Even if a peak sovereign emperor came to capture him, they might not be able to. Furthermore, he had other trump cards, so he did not fear them. Hence, Jiang He was extremely daring, whether it was a super faction or a hidden sect. As long as there was something that caught his eye, he would rush over and steal it, not fearing being caught. However, 2 months ago, when Jiang He first arrived at the imperial capital, he met this group of people. Jiang He did not know the identity of this person before him. He only knew that Ming Xian and that woman addressed him as milord. I told you, right? I don't know anything about the inheritance key at all. I have no value to you at all. Why the need to be so persistent? Jiang He asked the evil-eyed man, who stood up, with a bitter smile. The black-clad man glanced at Jiang He and said, aside from your father, the Heaven Dragon, no one else in the world knows the secret of the inheritance key. Even the purple gold dragon emperor could not tell him after torturing him for 20-odd years. Ha! In that case, go and look for him. At the same time, send my regards. My unfilial son cannot save him. Helplessness flashed in the depths of Jiang He's eyes. However, he hid it very well. Jiang He showed a carefree and indifferent attitude as he laughed softly. The black-clad man smiled coldly and ignored Jiang He. How could one go to the starry heavens dragon prison just because one wanted to? Furthermore, even the purple gold dragon emperor could not say anything. He might not be able to ask. Milord, is that possible? The inheritance key's location does have something to do with him. However, he does not know it. Ming Xian stood up and analyzed the situation from a perspective that no one had thought of. What do you mean? The black-clad man asked, feeling curious. For example, something very important on him was actually given to him by the Heaven Dragon, but he does not know it. Ming Xian sized up Jiang He, trying to find something on him. We've searched him from head to toe. There are no other clues. Beside Jiang He, a purple-clothed old man answered somberly. However, we did find something interesting in his memories. There are a lot of treasures in his storage ring, but I can't open it. Jiang He chuckled softly. Do you want it? If you let me go, I can give them all to you. The black-clad man showed a cold expression, showing no interest. He sat back down and said, continue to seal him. When the time comes, bring him to the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Perhaps he will recall something when he sees the ethereal immortal palace. If it doesn't work, then we'll use the second plan, which is to force a breakthrough. Yes. In the main hall of the ship, no one dared to disobey the black-clothed man's words. Even Ming Xian and the Azure Lotus Holy Daughter were clearly inferior to him in terms of status. Outside the warship, the Imperial Ancestral Temple expert Zuiyu, who sat beside the throne, said after some thought, First Prince, are you really going to bring these people to the ancient Yan Emperor tomb? I do not doubt their strength. But these people are clearly demonic Tao cultivators. Could it be? Wang Fei said calmly, Commander Zhua, don't worry. Getting me to approach these people is the idea of some of the royal clan's elders. Even Imperial Father has to show some respect to these elders. Do you understand what I mean? I know. I understand all this. However, Zuiyu showed a grave expression. He paused somewhat, not knowing how to continue. Using the Azure Lotus Church to keep the hidden spirit temple in check was the royal clan's strategy 1,000 years ago. It looked like the results were pretty good. In the past, the hidden spirit temple had never overridden the royal authority or interfered with the succession race. However, Zuiyu felt that something was wrong. He knew that the royal clan's elders wanted to use this group of people. However, if they were not careful, it might lead to a great disaster. Commander Zhua, this is something for the elders to worry about. There is no need for us to bother. Let me ask you, how strong are these people? Zuiyu indicated that he understood. Then, he seriously analyzed, they are very strong. Practically none of them are weak. At the very least, they are as strong as great perfection sovereign emperors. Some of them are even troublesome to deal with. Wang Fei nodded. After some thought, he asked, how strong is that evil-eyed man? He is somewhat unfathomable. If we fight, I estimate that he has only a 50% chance of victory. At the mention of that evil-eyed man, Zuiyu felt some fear. Wang Fei smiled and said, good. As long as he is strong, that is enough. I have already lost too much. I have to win this succession race. Hence, Commander Zhua, please don't worry. I can tell you that demonic Tao cultivators have entered every succession race. Zuiyu felt slightly startled when he heard that. Clearly, he had not expected such a thing. The royal clan is very clear on this. However, no matter how bold these people are, they would not dare to cause trouble in the ancient Yan Huang tomb. After that, some of the demonic Tao loose cultivators would even be secretly recruited by the royal clan. Hence, the royal clan has always turned a blind eye to this. The first prince said calmly, this world is not black or white. Commander Zhua, you have been cultivating bitterly for a long time. Although you are strong, your thoughts are somewhat pure. Zuiyu remained silent. He kept feeling that something was wrong with this. However, since the first prince already said that, there was no need for him to continue arguing. On this particular day, in the secret realm of the ninth prince's residence, Shaoqun appeared fatigued. He spat out a mouthful of turbid qi and sighed softly, I finally raised the primal chaos heavenly flame and the heavenly snow divine flame to rank 7. A Taiji yin-yang flame diagram appeared above Shaoqun's head, covering the sky and sun. The Taiji yin-yang flame diagram shrouded the entire secret realm's sky. The two heavenly flames chased each other in the sky like fish. The Taiji yin-yang flame diagram existed with the sky, looking down on all life. As the flames swam about, the entire world seemed to spin. When Shaoqun looked around, the scene around him distorted at the edges of his vision. After the two primal chaos grade flames rose to rank 7, they formed a Taiji yin-yang flame diagram again. As the flames swam about, they actually changed some of the spatial laws, giving Shaoqun a pleasant surprise. Withdraw! Shaoqun shouted. He opened his hand, and the picturesque sky appeared in his palm, firmly grasping it. Shaoqun revealed a satisfied smile on his fatigued face. Then, he said softly, I did not work hard in vain. Unfortunately, I do not have time to break through to the 10,000 Dragons Art's third layer. However, with these two trump cards, the ancient Yan Emperor tomb should not require me to execute a forbidden art. Dragon's Gate's forbidden art, 9 heavens god demon body unsealing technique. The stronger the bloodline, the stronger the might of the forbidden art. Using the blue dragon bloodline to trace the source, one could allow an ancient blue dragon to undergo a blood rebirth. If one was strong enough, it might even turn into a great desolate Aeon ancestor dragon. However, once Shaoqun executed the forbidden art, his divine energy and soul energy would burn up. More seriously, if one did not have sufficient willpower and could not reverse the forbidden art, one would exhaust all their life force. To put it more bluntly, most people would not be able to reverse the effects of this forbidden technique. Once this forbidden art was executed, most people would have the determination and boldness to turn the situation around and perish together. The forbidden art was too risky. If not necessary, Xiaochen did not want to execute it. This was especially so for the Nine Heavens God-Demon Body unsealing technique. If he failed, he would not be able to bear the consequences. I hope so. Xiaochen felt that this trip to the ancient Yan Emperor tomb was a fortuitous encounter for him. However, the danger he faced might be the most competitive risk he had ever taken in his life. Today should be the day of the competition for slots. It is time to go out and see who the ninth prince has recruited. Whether Xiaochen was willing or not, it was already time. He needed to go out. Xiaochen closed his eyes and rested for a while. When he opened them again, his fatigue was swept away. He recovered his usual calm and collected demeanor and walked out of the secret realm, preparing to meet up with the ninth prince Wang Yan. Xiaochen wanted to see who the ninth prince Wang Yan had recruited. If Xiaochen was not strong enough, he would not be able to help the ninth prince obtain the throne alone. That is, the moment Xiaochen came out, he looked up and discovered a scarlet color covering the sky. This startled him. When he looked carefully, he discovered a scarlet warship exuding a horrifying might. A war banner fluttered on the warship's bow. Xiaochen could not help exclaiming, feeling excited. The Scarlet Blood War Banner. That is the Scarlet Blood Warship. Chapter 2275. The Scarlet Blood Warship. This is the legendary warship left behind by the legendary Scarlet Blood Pirate King. In that case, is Xiao Sua's group here? Back when they parted at the 100,000 Great Peaks, it had been close to 10 years since Xiao Sua saw them. Xiao Sua looked forward to this group of people inheriting the Scarlet Blood Pirate King's treasures and making a name for themselves in the Seven Forbidden Seas. Brother Xiao. The Heavenly Book scholar smiled faintly and appeared around the corner, arriving before Xiaochen. You came at the right time. Xiaochen withdrew his gaze and fixed it on the Heavenly Book scholar. The Heavenly Book scholar smiled and said, "It's still all right. I estimated that you would probably come out on the last day. Hence, I came early. It looks like I was right." Xiaochen did not say anything more. He asked directly, "Is that the Scarlet Blood warship above the royal residence?" The two chatted as they walked. When the Heavenly Book scholar mentioned the Scarlet Blood warship, he revealed a strange expression. He said, "Indeed. Speaking of which, it is rather coincidental. Ever since the ninth prince decided to seize the throne, his emperor's star has been rising. The strength of his luck has surpassed my expectations. Since you entered closed-door cultivation, experts have been coming to seek refuge. 3 days ago, the Black Cutlass pirate group that shook the Forbidden Seas came as well. It is not strange for a pirate group to target the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. After all, the inheritances and fortuitous encounters in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb are very attractive to sovereign emperors. However, I find it strange. Why did the Black Cutlass pirate group target the ninth prince?" Xiaochen smiled faintly and did not say anything more. It looked like Xiao Sua's group did not see Xiaochen. It was not surprising that Xiao Sua did not reveal his relationship with Xiaochen. "Who else is coming?" Xiaochen asked. "Wait and see for yourself. The ninth prince is already waiting for you." After a while, the two arrived at the main hall of the royal residence. Aside from the ninth prince and Su Yi, there was no one else. Wang Yan narrowed his eyes and looked at Xiaochen in shock. After not seeing Xiaochen for 1 month, Xiaochen's strength had increased significantly again. This time, even Wang Yan could not make out Xiaochen's strength. After nodding slightly, Wang Yan said softly, "Since Brother Xiao is already here, Chang Ji, get those main and backup guests to come over. Prepare to depart." "I'll go prepare." The Heavenly Book scholar left after receiving the order. Xiaochen felt anticipation in his heart, curious about who would be there. "Is the recruitment of guests going smoothly?" Xiaochen asked Su Yi and Wang Yan. Su Yi took the initiative to smile and say, "It is much better than I expected. Lord Xiao, you really hid yourself well. You have given the ninth prince and me a pleasant surprise." "Oh." Wang Yan smiled mysteriously. You will know in a while." Not long after, the sound of hurried footsteps came from outside the door, and a person rushed in first. The newcomer was dressed in gray and had regular facial features. There was a deathly aura around him that could not be washed away. He exuded a forthright temperament, as if he rarely saw the sun, so his face was slightly pale. Xiao Chen's eyes immediately lit up as he said softly, "Qin Zhuolin." The person who arrived was Qin Zhuolin, the strong geomaster that Xiao Chen had met in the desolate sea back then. When they first met, they had met the desolate slave soul reaper. But the memory was so deep that it was hard to forget it even now. Of course, what was even more unforgettable was the bottle of heartburn that Qin Zhuolin gave Xiao Chen. That had cheated him badly. Now that Xiao Chen thought about it, he felt that he had suffered a loss. If he had kept heartburn until now, his strength could have improved. "Why are you here?" Xiao Chen could not help asking out of curiosity. This fellow frequently wandered the desolate seas underground, passing through many ancient tombs. It was rare to see him leave the desolate sea. Qin Zhuolin smiled and said, "Everyone in the world knows about the succession race in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Originally, I was not interested. However, I heard that you came to join in the excitement, so I came to take a look. Coincidentally, the 9th prince took a liking to it, so I stayed behind." Wang Yan said softly, "Mr. Qin is too humble." Following closely behind Qin Zhuolin was Ao Jiao. A stout man followed beside her, revealing most of his upper body and having a flame totem tattooed on it. Ao Jiao looked at Xiao Chen and smiled gently as she walked over. "This is?" Xiao Chen asked, finding it strange. The Bushan Palace had the 8 great empires assist the 13th prince. However, I heard that you became the 9th prince's guest, so I did not send the sovereign emperors. This is the strongest sovereign emperor under 500 years old in the Golden Crow Empire, Senior Hao Kai. The stout man did not show any arrogance. He performed a cup-fist salute and said, "Hao Kai greets the 9th prince and Lord Xiao. Since the divine daughter gave the order, I naturally have to do my best. I will follow the 9th prince's instructions on this trip." As Xiao Chen sized up Hao Kai, he felt startled in his heart. Hao Kai already possessed the strength of a 5-veined sovereign emperor. The fire-attributed energy in Hao Kai's body inspired fear. He probably had at least an 8th-layer Dao domain. By relying on his Golden Crow bloodline, Hao Kai was probably no weaker than Dao Yan. Right now, Xiao Chen did not know that Dao Yan already had a 10th-layer Ice Dao domain and comprehended an ice small world, which was why he came to this conclusion. Gradually, more people appeared. Aside from Wu Meng, most of them were people that Xiao Chen was not familiar with. These were the guests that the 9th prince recruited himself. Among them, there was an old man who attracted Xiao Chen's attention. That old man was skinny. The light in his eyes was withdrawn, and he showed a calm expression. The 9th prince addressed this old man as Senior Feng. He was an expert of the Blood Eagle army and also Wang Yan's strongest trump card. Xiao Chen did not pay much attention to this old man, as the appearance of someone in the main hall put significant pressure on everyone. Everyone could not help looking over. That person looked like a middle-aged man wearing long scarlet robes. His gaze was deep and calm. However, there was a frightening domineeringness on his face. His entire body gave off an unruly aura. "Big brother." This person walked straight to Xiao Chen and spoke in a deep voice with a sincere attitude. This startled many people in the main hall, making them feel incredibly surprised. Xiao Chen smiled calmly and said, "After not seeing you for 10 years, you did not let me down. You finally grew up." When Xiao Chen first met Xiao Sua, the other party did not even have a 3-star pirate ship. Now, Xiao Sua had such an air. The change was truly great. Xiao Sua's cultivation had even reached 3-veined sovereign emperor, 1 grade higher than Xiao Chen's. The Scarlet Blood Pirate King's treasures were indeed legendary. "I'm fine." Xiao Sua did not dare to be presumptuous before Xiao Chen. After greeting Xiao Chen, he went to greet Wang Yan. All the guests had arrived. On the surface, the strongest were Senior Feng and Hao Kai. These two were great perfection sovereign emperors with 5 vain cultivations. As for the remaining small perfection sovereign emperors, Shaochen felt that the stronger ones were Xiao Sua, Qin Zhuolin, and the heavenly book scholar. As for the others, aside from Wu Meng, Shaochen was not familiar with them, so he could not evaluate them. In terms of overall strength, there was still a gap between them and the 3 princes. However, with this lineup, they would no longer be at the bottom among the princes. There was finally a glimmer of hope to become the crown prince. Let's go. Now that everyone is here, let's head to the imperial palace. Time was tight. After the competition for slots, the Dao platform to the ancient Yan Emperor tomb would open. This matter was very important. Naturally, they could not delay. After chatting for a while, Wang Yan led the group out of his residence and headed for the imperial palace. In this generation of the Yanwu dynasty, there were dozens of princes, regardless of their strength or status. All of them were qualified to recruit guests into the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Most of them were destined not to become the crown prince. However, they could not give up on the inheritance and fortuitous encounters in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Of course, there were some princes who hid themselves deeply, pretending to be pigs to eat tigers. No one could say for sure. It could only be said that this show was destined to be interesting. At this moment, the various princes in the various royal residences felt very pleased with themselves. They led their guests to the same destination, heading for the imperial palace in a grandiose fashion. There were still the final competition for slots in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Naturally, the strong princes were filled with anticipation. The princes who did not intend to fight for the throne could not give up even if they wanted to. In the 3 challenges, as long as someone targeted them, they would have to send out their guests to fight. If they lost, they would lose 1 guest slot. If they won, the other party would have 1 less guest slot. After the competition for slots, the strong would naturally become stronger, and the weak would become weaker. This could be considered the prelude to the succession race. It allowed one to determine the true strength of the various princes. Chapter 2276. In the age of great competition, everyone was like a dragon. Then, the various princes set off for the imperial palace. The entire Yanwu dynasty's territory, including the astral domains in the outer seas, could feel the wheel of fate spinning. The dynasty's luck surged as if some kind of power was startling it awake from its slumber. At the Yanwu dynasty's imperial palace, where luck gathered, a vast dragon might spread out. The dragon might seem solid, turning into towering mountains circling above the imperial palace. A holy sword stabbed into those mountains, a holy sword that symbolized authority, status, and the Yan Emperor's throne. The princes with flourishing luck could even see this treasure sword that regular sovereign emperors could not see with the naked eye. As long as they could grasp this sword, they would become the crown prince of the dynasty and ascend to the Yan Emperor's throne. The place with the densest dragon chi in the imperial palace, surrounded by the splendid palaces, there was a vast and boundless martial arts practice field. In the treasure hall in the clouds in the sky, the 108 feudal lords, the noble clans' clan heads, the sex pavilion masters, and many experts gathered here, preparing to watch the final competition for the slots. When noon arrived, the sun hung high in the sky. The various princes entered through the winding corridors in the imperial palace, entering the drill ground in a grandiose fashion. Outside the drill ground were many royal platforms and pavilions. The various princes entered the drill ground in an orderly manner according to their identities, ascending the tall platforms. The royal platforms were squarish and close to 100 meters tall. Banners fluttered on the railings in the surroundings. The princes sat there, and the guests either sat at the sides or stood there, sizing up the surroundings. The 9th Prince Wang Yan, Xiao Chen, and the others ascended the royal platforms. At this moment, wind and clouds gathered. All sorts of extraordinary people, demonic geniuses, and outstanding talents appeared. Although there were many people in the drill ground, it was quiet, no one made a ruckus. In the air, many pairs of eyes met and collided, creating intense sparks. Those who could come here were all dragons among men. They had to go through many rounds of selection and elimination before finally standing here. Nearly all the sovereign emperors of the righteous Tao and demonic Tao under 500 years old in the entire martial epoch gathered here. Some of these people knew each other, had old grudges or new grudges. This made the trip to the ancient Yan Emperor tomb, which everyone looked forward to in the first place, even more exciting. What kind of show would there be? Aside from this, most of the sovereign emperors present knew what was going on. Aside from the succession race, there was an even bigger game in this ancient Yan Emperor tomb. Misty Immortal Palace. No one knew how many guests had come for the ethereal Immortal Palace. However, Xiaochen reckoned that there was at least a 70% chance that he had come. Even if he did not come for this, he had heard the prophecy of the ethereal Immortal Palace appearing. However, no one mentioned this matter. They had a tacit understanding. Xiaochen was also looking around to see if he could find any familiar faces and how strong the other princes were. Naturally, Wang Fei was one of them. Even if Xiaochen wanted to ignore the first prince Wang Fei, he could not. Outside the martial arts practice field, his aura was the strongest among the many kings' platforms. There were a total of more than 20 people, and he had 18 official candidates. If they won all 3 battles, the number of guests they would have would reach a terrifying 21. It was hard to imagine how horrifying the first prince's aura would be if Xiaochen had not ruined his wedding. Xiaochen casually glanced around and discovered an old acquaintance, Ming Xian. As Ming Xian stood behind the first prince, he had handsome facial features and a lotus-like air. He looked like a handsome man. However, he was a monk. That is, Xiaochen let out a soft cry of surprise. When he saw the woman not far from Ming Xian, a strange look flashed in his eyes. It's Yang Qing. The Yang Qing that Xiaochen once befriended in the Grave Sea Cluster. No, it is not Yang Qing. Yang Qing is already dead. This woman is the Azure Lotus Holy Daughter. The Yang Qing that Xiaochen knew was just her Nirmanakia. The Nirmanakia was a completely different person and could not be confused with her. Just as Xiaochen felt bewildered, that Yang Qing seemed to sense Xiaochen's gaze. She smiled meaningfully at him. Xiaochen withdrew his gaze, avoiding eye contact. As Xiaochen withdrew his gaze, he did not notice that there was another person on the first prince's platform. There was another person covered in a black robe. His entire body shone with a blood-colored light, within which lightning flickered. That person's eyes stared at Xiaochen like a venomous snake. Without a doubt, the first prince's platform was the most eye-catching spot. However, the first prince remained extremely low profile, sitting on the throne in the middle of the platform with his eyes closed. It seemed like the setback at the wedding had made the first prince withdraw his ambitions and endure silently, making him even more shrewd. Aside from the first prince, the most eye-catching ones were naturally the 8th prince and the 13th prince. The 2 of them each had 16 slots, second only to Wang Fei. Their lineup of guests was also extremely strong. On one side were the representatives of the entire Yanwu dynasty's sections. The 8th prince Wang Fei's platform was filled with sect demonic geniuses several hundred years old. None of them were weaker than 3 vain sovereign emperors, all of them were great perfection sovereign emperors. Among them, Dao Yan was the most eye-catching. His black eyes flickered with a faint icy light. Dao Yan's eyes looked as pure as an astral gem, startling everyone. However, no one knew that Dao Yan had already formed an ice-small world. The 8th prince had gathered all the outstanding talents of his sect. The strength of his guests was flabbergasting. The threshold for the mercenary election was very advantageous for the 8th prince. He could recruit many experts without any effort. What was even more strange was that Emperor Wu's profound Heaven Holy Land's holy son, Wen Renyu, as well as the outstanding talents Mu Yunzhu and Gu Yuhan were among them. Everyone sighed in shock. The 8th prince had actually hidden himself so deeply. He only revealed that he had the profound Heaven Holy Land support now. The 13th prince's guests were similarly shocking. Without exception, all of them were demonic geniuses with great desolate Aeon bloodlines. When the 13th prince stood there, the aura of his great desolate Aeon bloodline gathered, pressuring others. This was the innate advantage of his bloodline. Furthermore, these people were from the 7 or 8 empires under the Bushan Palace. Sovereign emperors under 500 years old fought against each other, becoming absolute elites. With one glance, Shaochen noticed several familiar faces, Bai Yunfei, Xiahou Zun, and the dragon god crown prince Qin Ming. There were also some princes that Shaochen did not notice. These princes possessed terrifying strength as well. Someone wearing a thick cloak and hood stood behind the 4th Prince Wang Yun. This person had his head buried. This was the hidden spirit temple's Yuanzhen. He lowered his head, not looking at anyone. No one knew what he was thinking. The 6th Prince Wang Ming was even more horrifying. The underworld god hall experts stood on his tall platform, the flood dragon human Yen Sangming, Old Xiao from the Battle of the Underworld River, the Buddhist sect traitor Jin Yuan, and the Azura race and Rakshasa race experts. After disguising their identities, these people stood behind Wang Ming in a low-profile manner, not revealing anything. Others would find it hard to figure out where many outstanding talents gathered. They would not know what trump cards Wang Ming was hiding. There were too many outstanding talents, too much for the eyes to take in. There was simply no way to see them all. Even Shaochen could not guarantee that he did not make a mistake. He vaguely felt that the 8 super factions had sent people here in secret. This included the low-profile Pirate Alliance and the Underworld God Hall deep underground. Shaochen also saw Grim Reaper Lin Feng. The other party nodded slightly at him, not saying anything else. It looked like the Heavenly Alliance was planning to make 2 bets. On one hand, they had Mu Zifeng choose Shaochen and support the 9th prince. On the other hand, they had Swearen Ji send Lin Feng to support the 7th prince. They wanted to see who would emerge victorious. Unfortunately, they were somewhat disappointed. They did not see Chu Chaoyun. The Universe Origin sect's people did notice him. However, Chu Chaoyun was not among them. Perhaps he was hiding among the other princes. Perhaps he had already given up the ethereal immortal palace key in his hand, staying out of this matter. Everyone gathered, good and bad mixed together. Clearly, the many powerhouses in the clouds had not expected this. To think that this succession race actually attracted so many outstanding talents. There were even some demonic Tao cultivators among them. Suddenly, a vast imperial might tore through the clouds, shocking the entire place. It was the Yen Emperor. As he hovered in the air, he looked down on everyone. When he swept his gaze around, everyone felt fear in their hearts, not daring to meet his gaze. With the Yen Emperor's sacred sword, the Yen Emperor was nearly unrivaled in the Yenwu dynasty's imperial palace. There was a hint of a smile at the corner of his mouth. He was well aware of the many princes and guests below. The ancient Yen Emperor tomb is reopening. Many thanks to all the outstanding talents who came from afar to help my son. This is especially so for my friends from the demonic Tao Hall, the Underworld God Hall, and the Pirate Alliance. You are really bold. Whoosh! The Yen Emperor's words were like a clap of thunder, setting the place abuzz. A strange look flashed in the eyes of the many demonic Tao Loose cultivators, the Underworld God Hall cultivators, and the Shuawu dynasty's outstanding talents. These demonic Tao Loose cultivators felt that they had hidden themselves sufficiently, carrying shocking treasures. After concealing their demonic chi and mixing in with the prince's guests, they looked no different from ordinary loose cultivators. Unexpectedly, they were like child's play before the Yen Emperor. Just as everyone felt uncertain, the Yen Emperor's grave expression vanished. He smiled faintly and said, "Don't worry. This emperor will not make things difficult for you." The ethereal immortal palace might appear in the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. If I do not let you in, there will be even more trouble. However, now that you have returned to my ancient Yen Emperor tomb, you have to abide by the rules of my Yenwu dynasty. If anyone dares to cause trouble, I guarantee that even if the underworld god appears or the demon master descends, they will not be able to save you. Chapter 2277. When the Yan Emperor suddenly brought this matter out in front of everyone, it caused quite a commotion. After all, the identity of a demonic Tao cultivator was very sensitive. However, the imperial capital Yan City was the #1 city in the world. It could be said to be the center of the entire Great Thousand Realms. Although the Tianwu dynasty and the Xunwu dynasty were stronger, they were not as open as the Yanwu dynasty due to the restrictions of the Universe Origin sect and the Profound Heaven Holy Land. Even if one ran into a demonic Tao cultivator in the imperial capital Yan City, it would not cause much of a surprise. In every succession race, demonic Tao cultivators would participate. This was something that everyone had a tacit understanding about. Strictly speaking, Shaoqun was also considered half a demonic Tao martial artist, so it would be difficult to investigate this matter. The dynasty turned a blind eye to this. After all, these demonic Tao cultivators would not dare to cause a ruckus. They all knew their limits and wouldn't go overboard. But this time, it was a little unusual. The battle for the crown prince had involved the emergence of the Immortal Palace, which had attracted the attention of too many demonic forces. Nearly all of the 8 super factions had come. The number of demonic Tao cultivators far surpassed that of previous demonic Tao cultivators. The Yan Emperor's words were directed at the demonic Divine Hall and the Underworld God Hall. In other words, Shaoqun wanted to intimidate the Universe Origin sect and the other super factions. In the end, this place is the territory of my Yanwu dynasty. All of you have great backgrounds and cannot be offended. But don't go overboard. Don't think that I don't know about your existence. On the royal platform, Shaoqun softly said, "Ninth Prince, it seems that you are worrying too much." Doubt flashed in Wang Yan's eyes. After some thought, he said, "I thought that Imperial Father did not know about Big Brother's collusion with the demonic creature dynasty. It looks like everything is within his grasp. However, why is that? The other party is a great enemy of my Blood Moon dynasty." The Heavenly Book scholar explained, "Your Highness, this matter involves the appearance of the ethereal Immortal Palace, the only transcendent grade soul tool in the world. If the Yan Emperor chased the people of the Underworld God Hall and the demonic God Hall out, the Yan Emperor would definitely be killed. The other party definitely won't let this go. What do you think will happen then?" Wang Yan was not stupid. He quickly understood. At that time, the succession race will not continue. The folk god experts of the Underworld God Hall and the Shuawu dynasty might personally charge over and attack the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. The other super forces will definitely try to take advantage of the crisis and disrupt the situation. Thinking of this, Wang Yan felt a chill run down his spine. At that time, he could already foresee a calamity. The foundation of the entire Yanwu dynasty might be shaken. The Heavenly Book scholar nodded and said, "That's right. Hence, rather than blocking it, it is better to release it. The current situation is actually the best." Shaoqun admired the Yan Emperor. The Yan Emperor's boldness and vision were indeed extraordinary. The 9th prince was still a bit young. He spent most of his time outside, and the world in his eyes was either black or white. Today's events had taught him a thing or two about the structure of an emperor. After some words, the Yan Emperor stood in the air and announced loudly, "The fight for the slots begins now. Draw your swords." After speaking, the Yan Emperor's figure disappeared. Clang! Following that, an endless chain of clangs rang out on the surrounding royal platforms. These were the sounds of swords being drawn. The princes all had a Yan imperial sword replica. Although they were replicas, they were connected to the original. At a critical moment, they could even summon out the original Yan imperial sword to support them. This was an extremely special soul tool. What was even more special was that each Yan imperial sword replica contained a different Tao of each prince. For example, the 9th prince frequently guarded the borders, fighting enemies and killing demons. What he obtained was the Massacre Tao. When the succession race ended, there would be only one replica Yan imperial sword. This replica Yan imperial sword would carry its own Tao and receive the inheritance, becoming the supreme new holy sword, ruling the Yanwu dynasty. Clang! Wang Yan drew the Yan imperial sword in his hand and turned into a flash of light. The Yan imperial sword stabbed into the front of the royal platform. The dragon luck contained in the sword turned solid, turning into a 30-meter-long dragon image coiling around the royal platform. Immediately, dragons fought in the sky above the drill ground. The dragons roared ferociously, and dragon might spread out, covering the sky and sun. Clouds churned above the royal palace, and mysterious phenomena appeared. When looking around, the first prince had the strongest dragon luck above his royal platform. That dragon image was 63 meters long. As it coiled around the royal platform, it did not look angry or angry. However, it exuded might without being angry, shocking the surroundings and showing the air of an expert. Next were the 8th Prince Wang Feng and the 13th Prince Wang Yi. These two dragon images were 63 meters long. As their dragon images swayed, they continuously challenged the dragon image above the first prince's royal platform. The competition went without saying. Most of the other princes were like the 9th prince, with 30-meter-long dragon images. Only a few princes had much weaker dragon luck, which was exceptionally obvious in this competition. If nothing unexpected happened, these princes with weaker dragon luck would be the targets of the strong dragons. In the competition for slots, these princes would definitely be targeted by others, making them their priority opponents. How surprising! To think that the 9th prince's dragon image is 23 meters long. When did his dragon luck become so strong? That's right. The 9th prince's presence has always been weak, and he clearly has no intention of competing. His accumulations are actually quite deep. However, that is all. The truly strong ones are still the 1st prince, the 8th prince, and the 13th prince. A strong dragon luck is indeed extraordinary, far surpassing that of the other princes. Did you notice the 6th Prince Wang Ming? Although his dragon image looks small, in reality, it spun around a few times. In reality, it is at least 13 meters long. This person really hid his strength deeply. If you hadn't mentioned it, I would not have noticed it. This 6th prince really does not reveal himself. It is fine if he does not do anything, but he wants to shock the world with a single brilliant feat. Quick, look! The competition for slots is starting. The 8th prince is the first to challenge the 19th prince. The powerhouses in the palace in the clouds that had noticed the 6th prince Wang Ming all turned their heads to look. The 8th prince Wang Feng was the first to send out a guest to challenge the 19th prince. The 19th prince's dragon image was only 23 meters long. Clearly, he could not send out a strong guest. The 19th prince smiled bitterly and said helplessly, "I did not even intend to fight for the throne. I just wanted to try my luck in the ancient imperial tomb." To think that I would not let this off, the 19th prince did not choose to resist fearlessly. He directly gave up, letting the other party win. It was not that the 19th prince did not want to accept the challenge, but that he wanted to keep a strong guest to fight the other princes. This was because the 19th prince clearly could not compete with the strong 8th prince. There was no need for him to waste his effort. The 8th prince's victory, easily obtaining a slot. This immediately set off the horn for the competition for slots. A somewhat chaotic challenge took place in the arenas of the drill ground at the same time. There was an arena in front of each king's platform. If the other party wanted to fight, they would have to fight. If the other party wanted to challenge them, they just needed to jump into the arena and raise their prince's banner. The rules were simple and clear. Senior Feng, should we take the initiative to challenge or wait for the others to challenge us? Wang Yan asked Senior Feng, the oldest of his guests. This Senior Feng was an expert of the military, possessing deep cultivation and rich experience. Senior Feng looked around and replied, "Our accumulations are slightly weaker. It is best not to take the initiative to expose ourselves. Let's wait for the others to challenge us." Senior Hao Kai, what do you think? Wang Yan looked around and fixed his gaze on the Golden Crow Empire's Hao Kai. Hao Kai's cultivation was about the same as Senior Feng's. They were both great perfection five-vein sovereign emperors who possessed the Golden Crow bloodline. Not to mention experience, their combat prowess was even stronger. I have no objections. I will follow your highness's instructions. Wang Yan then asked Xiao Chen and the heavenly book scholar. The two indicated that they did not need to take the initiative to challenge, so they listened to everyone's opinion. He's here. Xiao Chen looked around and saw a banner land on the arena in front of the royal platform. This humble one is Duanmu Huanghan. I am here on the fourth prince's orders to challenge the ninth prince for a slot. The person who came was dressed in embroidered clothes and looked like a middle-aged man. His tone did not show any sharpness, but he was a four-vein great perfection sovereign emperor. Wang Yan smiled faintly and said, "So, it is an expert from the Duanmu clan. Who is willing to fight? I'll do it." Xiao Suo took the lead and stepped forward, requesting to fight Wang Yan. This humble one is willing to fight as well and help the ninth prince take down this person. Another youth among Wang Yan's guests stepped forward. A sharp light flashed on his face, radiating a strong fighting spirit. This person's name was Jin Mingxiu. He was an extraordinary person that Wang Yan had taken the initiative to recruit with the help of the Misty Rain Pavilion's resources. Su Yi had personally recommended him. Wang Yan smiled softly and said, "Mingxiu, don't be impatient. Since Captain Xiao spoke first, let Captain Xiao fight this battle." Jin Mingxiu felt somewhat unconvinced, but he still obeyed and stepped back. Whoosh! Xiao Suo's figure flashed, and he landed heavily on the arena. Then, he looked at the other party calmly. Doubt flashed in Duanmu Huanghuan's eyes. He had thought that the other party would send Senior Feng or Hao Kai. At the very least, it would be the famous Xiao Chen in the imperial capital. Unexpectedly, the ninth prince underestimated him so much, sending a three-vein sovereign emperor nameless person. It looks like the ninth prince does not have any desire to compete. In that case, I will accept this slot. Seeing that his opponent was not Xiao Chen, Senior Feng, or Hao Kai, Duanmu Huanghuan's reserved and senior attitude vanished, replaced with arrogance. Xiao Suo's lips curled up in a smile. Shocking waves surged, and a sea of blood surged. Xiao Suo, who looked experienced and steady, did not show any sharpness, but his emperor's might soared. A scarlet mark on Xiao Suo's forehead released a dazzling light. With a wave of Xiao Suo's hand, the scarlet blood war banner appeared. Without saying anything, Xiao Suo charged over with a berserk and bloodthirsty aura. Duanmu Huanghan felt greatly startled. He had not expected a nameless person to be so tyrannical. By the time Duanmu Huanghan startled to his senses, the scarlet blood war banner had already swept over. Pa! 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 The scarlet war banner moved up and down like waves, unleashing an unending stream of energy. Duanmu Huanghan sent out 3 palm strikes. With each palm strike, he scattered a wave of energy. However, the waves piled on top of one another. The attacks contained in the Scarlet Blood War banner surged endlessly. The Scarlet Blood Pirate King's legacy brought back the glory of the past in Xiao Suo's hands. After 10 moves, Duanmu Huanghan retreated to the edge of the arena, unable to retreat any further. Just as Duanmu Huanghan was about to take out his life soul tool and fight to the death, Xiao Suo shouted. The sea of blood surged as he stood on top of the waves. He gently waved the war banner, making it look like a spear as he thrust it down from above. Bang! 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 The light waves that Duanmu Huanghan formed with his great Tao energy shattered layer by layer. The Scarlet Blood War banner easily broke through all his defenses. I admit defeat. Seeing Xiao Suo's berserk aura slowly approach, Duanmu Huanghan felt horrified. Duanmu Huanghan felt that if he continued fighting, he would definitely lose. Furthermore, he would suffer severe injuries, so he quickly admitted defeat. Thank you for letting me win. After defeating his opponent in 10 moves, Xiao Suo put away the fourth prince's royal banner and returned to the royal platform. Good. Wang Yan praised Xiao Suo with joy in his eyes filled with excitement. In this battle, Xiao Suo helped Wang Yan show his sharpness. No one dared to underestimate him anymore. Chapter 2278. Defeat the enemy in 10 moves, seize the flag, and leave. The 10 moves seemed simple, but only Duanmu Huanghan knew what kind of pressure he was facing. The arena was a small world with a universe within it. It was incredibly vast, suitable for sovereign emperors to fight. Duanmu Huanghan had no choice but to admit defeat before he could unleash his aura. However, he wholeheartedly accepted his loss and had no complaints. It was very difficult for others to understand the terrifying baleful aura on Xiao Suo's body, as well as the oppressive domineering aura when he leaped up and descended from the sky. The aura that Xiao Qin showed was nothing like that of a three-veined sovereign emperor. The flag in your hand is the Scarlet Blood War banner that the legendary pirate king left behind. Duanmu Huanghan asked Xiao Suo, who was already standing on the royal platform, a little disgruntled. This was because he also had an inferior grade soul tool artifact in his possession, but he had been too careless to summon it at the start. If he had taken out his life-bound armament right from the start, he might have had a 50% chance of winning. However, if the other party really had the Scarlet Blood War banner, then there would be no point in taking out his life soul tool. Good eyesight. Xiao Suo did not comment, which could be considered as an answer. After Duanmu Huanghan heard this, the unwillingness in his eyes dissipated. He knew that he had no chance at all. Even if he had taken out his life-bound artifact from the start, the result would still have been the same, just that he wouldn't have lost so badly. Because of Xiao Chen's existence, no matter how low-key the 9th prince was, he would still attract a lot of attention. This clean and efficient battle in which he defeated his opponent in 10 moves immediately caused a sensation. It is actually the Scarlet Blood War banner. Good fella, no wonder the 9th prince's luck is 9 zhang long. He has been hiding it well. With the Scarlet Blood War banner in hand, it is not hard to understand why a three-veined sovereign emperor could defeat a great perfection sovereign emperor. Above the clouds, in the palace. When the Yan emperor saw the 9th prince's performance, his eyes lit up. He smiled at the people beside him and said, "9th brother is not bad. Aside from Xiao Chen, you managed to recruit such a guest." The imperial clan elders around him were also surprised and kept an eye on the 9th prince. On the royal platform, the 9th prince smiled and said, "Well done, Xiao Suo." Xiao Suo remained unfazed. He said humbly, "It is just the advantage of the spirit weapon in my hand. 9th prince is overpraising me." The heavenly book scholar smiled faintly and said, "Captain Xiao is being humble. The Scarlet Blood War banner cannot shine in anyone's hands." After the Scarlet Blood Pirate King died, this war banner went through at least 3 owners. However, none of them could bring out its wondrous effects, rendering it useless. Hence, it was slowly lost. The guests on the 4th prince's royal platform of the Jiao all showed unhappy expressions. But by doing Xiao Shi of people, of dukes, 1. The 4th prince Wang Li, on the other hand, had a thoughtful expression on his face. He seemed to be indifferent to the loss of the quota. Wang, and of, Wang, the Wang of. Wang of Wang of. And Wang, of and of. Lord. Into tutu, and in of. 9th brother, you really hid yourself deeply. Wang Feng looked at the 9th prince's royal platform and thought to himself, after entering the ancient Yan emperor tomb, I have to keep my guard up against 9th brother. I cannot underestimate him. 8th prince, do you need me to get someone to help you suppress the 9th prince's arrogance? The profound heaven's holy son, Wenrenyu, asked softly with a faint smile. Aside from him, the strongest true inheritors of the profound heaven holy land, Gu Yuhan and Mu Yunzhu, stood on Wenrenyu's left and right. These two were no longer the same as before. Their strength had improved significantly. Wang Feng thought for a while before replying calmly, "There's no need. I have not fallen out with him yet. I will not offend him if I can. Hey." As Wang Feng spoke, he shifted his gaze to the first prince Wang Yan. "I am the Heavenly Wolf Empire's Tuobayao. On the 13th prince's orders, I am here to ask for a spot from the first prince." The outstanding talent of the Heavenly Wolf Empire, one of the 8 great empires, Tuobayao, pointed his royal banner at Wang Fei. Right after Tuobayao spoke, the entire place fell silent. Nearly everyone turned their gazes over. Wang Feng smiled and said, "Little 13 is really bold. However, it is good for him to test you. Let's see how many trump cards Big Brother has. I really want to know if he is just bluffing or not." Although the first prince's royal platform had a strong luck, it was very stable, low-key, and reserved. When the competition for spots started, the first prince had not taken the initiative to fight, and no one dared to take the initiative to mock him. However, now, someone finally could not hold back and made a move against him. The Tuobayao on the arena had a head of purple hair, a muscular body, and slightly tanned skin. He radiated the wildness of a wolf, and lightning flickered in his eyes. When he smiled, he looked very wild. Humph. Wang Fei showed a sullen expression as he tightly grabbed the armrest. Then, he said coldly, taking advantage of others, "Zuiyu." The left-eyed man hidden in the shadows behind Wang Fei said calmly, "First prince, please calm down. It is not Commander's was turn to make a move on such a clown. Which one of you is willing to make a move and help the first prince gain face?" A man clad in black, shrouded in bloody shadows, stepped forward. This person looked at Ming Xian as if seeking his opinion. Ming Xian nodded slightly and did not say anything. "Lord Shi, let me do it." "Oh. Mr. Gong is willing to make a move. In that case, victory is certain." The black-clad man with the mysterious left eye seemed to be interested in this person shrouded in bloody shadows. Whoosh! The figure of this person shrouded in bloody shadows flashed, and he landed on the arena. Then, he looked at Tuobayao and said, "I will be your opponent in this match." Tuobayao frowned slightly and asked coldly, hiding your head but showing your tail, "Who are you?" The voice of the person shrouded in bloody shadows was somewhat hoarse as he replied indifferently, "The person who will defeat you." Boom! Right after the person spoke, countless blood-sucking vines leaped out of the ground like venomous snakes. These blood-sucking vines soared into the air, leaving behind many scarlet shadows as they charged at Tuobayao. The speed of these blood-sucking vines was flabbergasting. What was even more horrifying was that these blood-sucking vines seemed to be alive, reproducing at every moment. In almost a moment, the vines had covered the entire small world, and the vast space in the arena was completely covered by vines. This was already a special field that resembled a small world. Horror flashed in everyone's eyes when they saw this scene. Normally, such a special field only appeared in strong ferocious beasts and rarely appeared in cultivators. It looked like the blood-sucking vines would form a barrier isolating Tuobayao from the world. A strange look flashed in Tuobayao's eyes as he said, "Insignificant tricks. I'll defeat you in one move." A golden light flashed in Tuobayao's eyes. He activated his great desolate Aeon bloodline. Tuobayao's aura soared as he roared, causing thunderclouds to churn. In that instant, a startling dynamite erupted from his body. With the support of his great desolate Aeon bloodline, Tuobayao's Thunder Dao domain reached peak 5th layer. Electric light flashed all over Tuobayao's body. His great desolate Aeon bloodline was indeed extraordinary. The emperor's might coming from Tuobayao was vaguely stronger than that of a four-veined sovereign emperor. "You are still too inexperienced to play lightning with me." The mysterious man shrouded in bloody shadows smiled coldly. Scarlet electric light suddenly burst out of his body as scarlet vines shot out. Each vine gave off electric light that looked like scarlet flames. The strange scarlet electric light instantly suppressed Tuobayao's seemingly unblockable 5th layer Thunder Dao domain. Whoosh! 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 Thousands of blood-sucking vines surged out like venomous snakes, breaking through Tuoba Yao's Dao domain and biting him. Ah! A sharp, miserable scream immediately rang out in the Yanwu arena. Tuoba Yao knelt on the ground and howled in pain. His cries were extremely tragic, making everyone tremble in fear. Xiaoqin showed a grave expression. He saw something even more horrifying. Those blood-sucking vines seemed to be absorbing this person's bloodline power. After the blood-sucking vines passed, the scarlet flame lightning on the mysterious man shrouded in bloody shadows turned even stranger. "I admit defeat." Tuoba Yao said these 3 words with some difficulty. These 3 words seemed to exhaust all his vital qi. Plop! The instant the blood-sucking vines returned, Tuoba Yao knelt on the ground with a plop. Tuoba Yao appeared dispirited, no longer showing any of his initial sharpness or wildness. He looked like a completely different person, losing most of his energy. The entire place fell deathly silent. Horror filled everyone's eyes. This mysterious man shrouded in bloody shadows was too scary. It was not that he was terrifyingly strong. It was just that his secret techniques were so evil that they inspired fear. Be it the small world-like blood-sucking vines domain, the scarlet flame lightning, or the final blood-sucking demonic vines, they were all incredible and horrifying. The mysterious man shrouded in bloody shadows attack showed everyone how terrifying the first prince was. He truly lived up to his 60-meter-long luck. The disguised Yan Cangming, who was behind the 6th Prince Wang Li, sighed softly. The Black Lotus Holy Son and the Azure Lotus Holy Daughter have not made a move yet, not to mention that person. The demonic Dao Hall's strength is still unfathomable. What's wrong? Young Master Yan, you do not seem confident enough. Wang Li asked softly with a slight frown. Yan Cangming replied indifferently, you have not seen how horrifying that person is. The mysterious man shrouded in bloody shadows inspires fear, but he inspires despair. Chapter 2279. At the 9th Prince's royal platform, Wang Yan asked, everyone, what do you think? Good. Everyone is here. As for the guests who have not arrived, listen to me first before taking action. In the first round of the succession race, you need to collect dragon essence. You can enter the second round only after collecting enough dragon essence. The dragon essence you collect will eventually gather in my Yen Imperial Sword and increase my dragon essence. After a while, the drill ground gave off a bright light, and a Dao platform slowly rose. Xiaoqin moved like a swallow as he soared into the air and landed firmly on the ground. The Heavenly Wolf Empire's guests showed awkward expressions. No one said anything for a long time. Just at this moment, the 9th Prince's voice rang out in Xiaoqian's sea of consciousness. Wang Ming revealed a contemplative expression. Then, he said indifferently, I hope it is as you wish. There was also a boundless pressure of the great desolate Aeon spreading out everywhere. This ancient aura had never been so clear before. Xiaoqin took out a jade strip, which gave off a faint light. When he held it in his hand, it dispelled the chill. After thinking for a while, Xiaoqin chose to stay behind, not rushing to meet up with the 9th Prince for now. There was no one in the surroundings. Sikong Shu said indifferently, 13th Prince, don't get anxious. At the very least, we managed to probe the first prince's strength. This person did not lose much of his accumulations because of the wedding. This might be a good thing for us. Xiaoqin seemed like he woke up from a dream. After a pause, he said, let's do our best and leave it to fate. Now that he has revealed his sharpness, we should not be the ones worried. Rather, it should be the 8th Prince and the 13th Prince. This is definitely a good thing for us. Xiaoqin held the jade strip to his forehead, and a 3D map appeared in his mind, a rough map of the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. As for the strong princes, the dragon essence around their Yen Imperial swords had increased significantly. If Xiaoqin saw right, that figure should be Jiang He, who had not shown himself for a long time. However, how did he become the first prince's guest? The Heavenly Book scholar nodded and said, that's right. Our strength is not as simple as it looks. After entering the ancient Yan Emperor tomb, the heavenly book scholar would bring out its true potential. Before the first prince was defeated, the two of them would not attack each other. It could be considered a simple alliance. Everything was done in silence. Wang Yan seemed to think of something. He said seriously, "I'll say one more thing. This place has existed since the ancient immemorial era. If there's enough dragon essence in the jade strip, you'll be able to better adapt to this place and display your full strength." "Alright, I'll stop here." The strong became stronger, and the weak became weaker. There was one more thing that Yan Sangming did not say in his heart. If there was one person who could make others feel despair, then Yan Sangming was despair itself. The man shrouded in blood instills fear in people, but that person instills despair in people. This is the strength of the Heavenly Wolf Empire's elites. Heavy snow swirled in the air, strong winds howled, and the cold wave was so fierce that it made people shiver. As they were speaking, Wang Yi felt a gaze on him. He turned his head and saw that it was the 8th prince, Wang Feng. "Everyone, don't panic." The competition for slots proceeded in an orderly fashion under the Heavenly Book Scholar's suggestions. Wang Yan stretched out his hand and sheathed the Yen Imperial sword on the ground. Then, his 30-meter-long dragon essence turned into a flash of golden light and vanished. As the 10,000 dragons art circulated in Xiao Chen's body, dragon images shone in his divine energy sea. Unexpectedly, Xiao Chen did not feel much spatial pressure. After Xiao Chen and the Heavenly Book Scholar spoke, the 9th prince's guests calmed down. Standing at the top of a snowy mound, Xiao Chen opened his heavenly eye and saw the scene within 50,000 kilometers. The others expressed their opinions one after another, worrying about the first prince's strength. Xiao Chen entered deep thought. It looks like the 9th prince can forcefully pull people to his side. This is probably a form of protection. Xiao Chen analyzed in his heart. This Yan Emperor is rather special. He is exceptionally skilled in the Ice Great Tao, resulting in heavy snow and cold qi everywhere his inheritance covers. However, I can't push my luck. I'm pretty lucky. At the very least, I'm pretty close to the inheritance. Senior Feng sighed softly, he is unfathomable. There are several auras on the first prince's platform that make this old man feel fear. I can sense that the person shrouded in bloody shadows is definitely not the first prince's strongest guest. Feeling confused, Xiao Chen asked, "Dragon essence?" After entering the ancient Yan Emperor tomb, you will be randomly sent to the periphery of the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. There will not be any danger for now. If you want to meet up with me, you can send a message to me through the jade strip that I gave you. Such a change relieved Xiao Chen of a significant amount of pressure. The so-called dragon essence can be understood as the materialization of dragon essence. This place contains the dynasty's dragon vein's ancestor vein. The ferocious beasts born here and the inheritances left by the previous Yan Emperor all contain dragon essence. The treasures and soul tools in the inheritances also contain dragon essence. Everyone can keep these treasures and soul tools for yourselves. Just remember to store the dragon essence in your jade strip. Me? After the blue dragon bloodline in Xiao Chen's body merged with this aura, it appeared excited, raring to give it a try. The Golden Crow Empire's Hao Kai said, "I feel the same." The competition for slots came to an end. The ancient Yan Emperor tomb's inheritances were left behind by the previous Yan Emperors after they died. The inheritances varied according to the cultivation techniques they cultivated. After observing for a while, Xiao Chen had a rough idea of where he was in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. The ancient Yan Emperor tomb was about to open. These simple words could be considered a vow before leaving. Senior Feng, Senior Hao Kai, and Chang Ji, make some preparations. I will use the Yan Imperial sword to send you to my side. As for the others, if you want to, you can move alone or come to my side. Just send a message. Some people rejoiced, while others worried. The dragon essence of the originally weak princes weakened significantly. In the following 2 matches, the 9th prince purposely lost 1 match before winning the 3rd. The ancient Yan Emperor tomb is about to open. Princes, please lead the guests in according to the order of the royal platform. That is, whoosh. The Yen Emperor's voice rang out in the sky. In the next moment, the first prince soared into the air. He brought along a large number of guests and entered the Taoist gate in a single file. The first round will last for 1 month. I hope that everyone can help me collect more dragon essence. Otherwise, if I do not have enough dragon essence, I will not be able to compete in the second round. At that time, everyone and I will be forced to leave. Also, if you run into danger, you can shatter this jade strip and leave the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. Xiao Chen's eyes were sharp. He seemed to see a familiar figure among the first prince's many guests helplessly entering. According to the map, I should be within the range of the 500th Yen Emperor's inheritance. Wang Yi showed a slightly unsightly expression on the 13th prince's royal platform. The two looked at each other. After a simple exchange of glances, they reached a consensus. When the 6th prince Wang Ming heard that, he felt slightly stunned. After some thought, he said, "Even you feel despair?" There was no time to think. Soon, it was the 9th prince's turn. Since the 9th prince was at the periphery, the inheritance left by this Yen Emperor should not be much of a surprise. The divine energy sea in Xiao Chen's body surged, materializing many golden dragon images and wildly absorbing the great desolate Yin aura. Jianghe. As Xiao Chen held the jade strip, he muttered to himself, "Spatial pressure." Before coming here, Wang Yan had given every guest a jade strip. At that time, he did not mention its use. Boom! When Xiao Chen opened his eyes, he found himself in the vast snowy region. Clang! However, holding the jade strip helped Xiao Chen reduce the chill significantly. A bright light flashed in Xiao Chen's eyes. Then, he said, "Since that is the case, I have to monopolize this inheritance. Treasures and soul tools could be kept for myself." No wonder others wanted to enter so badly. The commotion caused by the mysterious man shrouded in bloody shadows was significant. The battles in the other arenas immediately paled in comparison. I will definitely do my best. This place was indeed somewhat strange. His movement technique and cultivation all suffered restrictions. Even the range of his heavenly eye significantly shrank. Boom! Many thanks to everyone this time. We are about to enter the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. I hope that everyone can work together and help me. Lord Xiao, what about you? Everyone soared into the air and entered the door of light one after another. Light and shadow turned blurry, and space and time changed. The 9th prince's voice rang out again, clearing up Xiao Chen's doubts and filling him with anticipation for the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. After putting down the jade strip, Xiao Chen looked around before soaring into the air. Before Yan Sangming said anything, Zhen Yuan, who was at the side, said softly, "6th prince, there is no need to worry. The strongest might not necessarily be the winner in the ancient Yen Emperor tomb. There are many variables that no one can predict. Otherwise, we would not have made this trip." Wang Yi's eyes flickered. After a while, he smiled and said, "That's true. I believe that 8th brother does not feel good in his heart right now." In that instant, it felt like countless chains shattered. Now, Xiao Chen did feel significant pressure. What was even more wondrous was that the 10,000 dragons art could no longer be controlled by Xiao Chen, circulating on its own. Whoosh! Chapter 2280. The vast snowy region only spanned a few 100,000 kilometers at the very most. Sovereign emperors could traverse such a distance in a few breaths. If they sent out their soul energy, they could see every movement in the entire snowy region. However, this was the ancient Yen Emperor tomb, a world that had not changed since the ancient immemorial era. The great desolate Yan's aura had never appeared before everyone so clearly before. Even Xiao Chen's divine skill, the heavenly eye, was limited to 50,000 kilometers. This showed how horrifying the pressure from the great desolate Yan was. Fortunately, for some reason, Xiao Chen's 10,000 dragons art was exceptionally active in this place. Without needing to think about it, it circulated freely, greedily absorbing the great desolate Aeon aura in the air. It vaguely showed signs of breaking through the second shackle at any moment. This place is a treasure land for cultivators with great desolate Aeon bloodlines. Shao Chen entered deep thought, muttering to himself. This went without saying for Shao Chen, who possessed the 10,000 dragons art. However, the pressure still existed, making it somewhat inconvenient for his movement technique. Traveling like this still drains a lot of energy. Shao Chen sighed as snow drifted over him. This place was too cold, making it hard to melt the accumulated snow. The coldness contained in the snow could be considered cold poison. This was not too harmful to a sovereign emperor's body. However, it took a lot of effort to disperse it. Coupled with the consumption of divine essence while sprinting, it somewhat made people feel restrained. Boom! A red light flashed as Shao Chen summoned out the demon blood vulture. Now, the demon blood vulture's bloodline had reverted to its ancestors, showing some signs of a blood phoenix. How much of your strength can you bring out in this ancient Yen Emperor tomb? 80%. As a mutated beast with a great desolate Aeon ferocious beast bloodline, the demon blood vulture could adapt much better than human cultivators. That's enough. Shao Chen gently pushed off with his feet and sat on the demon blood vulture's back, using it as a form of transportation as he flew through the snowy region. The demon blood vulture flew close to the ground, not daring to fly too high. Firstly, there was the spatial pressure. Secondly, it would be easy to become a target if it flew too high. All of the ferocious beasts here possessed dragon essence. If they were noticed, their eyes would light up and they would immediately want to kill them and steal their dragon essence. Help me find the inheritance. If you find anything suspicious, remember to remind me. Snow swirled in the air, blanketing the sky and the ground in whiteness. It would not be easy to find the inheritance left behind by the Yen Emperor, who was skilled in ice and snow. Fortunately, with the demon blood vulture's help, Shao Chen felt relaxed. He closed his eyes and cultivated on the demon blood vulture's back. Although he was multitasking, it did not delay his search for the inheritance. At the same time, the other princes gradually entered the Yen Huang ancient forest. However, the places they appeared in were all different. They could appear in an ancient pine forest, a wild plain, or a rocky desert. In the middle of a yellow desert, a sandstorm was blowing wildly. After the first Prince Wang Fei landed, he frowned slightly. Without saying anything, he directly drew his Yen Imperial sword. In the next moment, the Yen Imperial sword gave off a bright light, and dragon images circled it. So. The mysterious black-clad man with the left eye, the Imperial Ancestral Temple's trump card, the six-veined sovereign emperors Wu, the Black Lotus Holy Son, and the Azure Lotus Holy Daughter appeared one after another. The other guests chose to act alone, searching for the inheritance or hunting ferocious beasts. The Black Lotus Holy Son said softly, "This is just the first round. Your Highness, there is no need to waste your dragon luck to summon us." Wang Fei replied indifferently, "Naturally, I am confident of clearing the first round. However, I sent you here for another reason. I know of a superior grade inheritance of the previous Yen Emperor. I called you here to ensure that nothing goes wrong." Originally, the inheritances left by the previous Yen Emperors were not graded. However, there were strong and weak Yen Emperors. The inheritances they left varied in value. Gradually, the later generations added a grade to the inheritances, using this to distinguish the quality and rarity of the inheritances. The Imperial Ancestral Temple had a better understanding of the ancient Yen Emperor tomb and could provide the first prince with more information. A superior grade inheritance was considered an extremely incredible inheritance. Naturally, Wang Fei would be interested. "Oh, so, that's it. In that case, you can accompany Brother Wang. I will not interfere in this excitement." Even though this person wore a half-mask on his left face, revealing his eye, the first prince could still make out a bored expression on his face. Without waiting for Wang Fei to answer, the masked man left without saying goodbye. "How dare you?" Zhuyu frowned slightly. In his opinion, the first prince deserved death for such disrespect. The Black Lotus Holy Son, Ming Xian, said softly, "Your Highness, please calm down. Lord, she has always been like this. What exactly is the inheritance that the first prince is so interested in? Miss Qing and I will definitely do our best to help." Yang Qing smiled sweetly, looking like a cool breeze. Then, she looked at Wang Fei and said, "Your Highness, please lead the way." Wang Fei smiled coldly in his heart, but he did not show it. He smiled and said, "Commander Zhou, let's go. There is no need to make a fuss over nothing. Lord, she is an honored guest that I invited. Naturally, an honored guest cannot be treated like an ordinary person." The many princes' guests started moving around the ancient Yan Emperor tomb's periphery. In an ancient pine forest, the fourth prince Wang Yun drew his Yan imperial sword and gathered a few important guests to his side. One of them wore a hood and wrapped himself up tightly. This was the hidden spirit temple's Yuanzhen. Wang Yun looked at Yuanzhen and asked respectfully, "Mr. Yuan, what should we do?" The other princes should be focusing on searching for inheritances. However, fourth prince, your accumulations and strength are rather weak. You should not fight with others. If you suffer losses, the gains will not make up for the losses. Just obediently hunt ferocious beasts and collect dragon essence. We can talk about this after this round. A hoarse voice came from the hood, making people feel a little uncomfortable. The other guests felt somewhat upset. What was the point of coming to the ancient Yan Emperor tomb if not to search for inheritances? The fourth prince Wang Yun already made up his mind about Yuanzhen's words. After some thought, he said, "Let's do as Mr. Yuan says. Everyone, hunt ferocious beasts and collect dragon essence. I will definitely reward you generously after this. Furthermore, hunting ferocious beasts does not mean that you will not run into any treasures. Everything is possible in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb." After Wang Yun said that, the other guests' resentment subsided slightly. Yuanzhen kept a low profile in this round, not showing any intention of exposing himself. Good. Heaven is really helping me. The White Marsh Beast Empires by Yunfei, who was on the 13th prince's side, appeared extremely excited. After some thought, he said, "This place is simply the best for cultivators with great desolate Ian bloodlines like us." Wang Yi revealed a smile. He was somewhat surprised as well. The great desolate Ian aura of the ancient Yan Emperor tomb was even more horrifying than the legends made it out to be. Aside from the two royal court experts, the rest of Wang Yi's 18 guests were sovereign emperors from the Bushan Palace. "Senior Sikong, what should we do in this round?" Sikong Shu, who was dressed like a fisherman in a straw raincoat, appeared exceptionally calm. After some thought, he said, "We will split into 3 groups. We have the greatest advantage in the first round. We will take as many inheritances as we can. There is no need to waste inheritances. If we can raise our strength, we will refine them on the spot and not delay. After some time, most of them will adapt to the spatial pressure here. The advantage of their bloodlines will not remain much. Hence, we have to use our advantage in the first month to gain an even greater advantage." Wang Yi's eyes lit up. He smiled and said, "With Senior around, it is like having a treasure. Alright, we will follow Senior's instructions. We will split into 3 groups in this round. We will take as many inheritances as we can." Everyone knew that unless one hunted extremely horrifying ferocious beasts, it would be hard to collect enough dragon essence. Even if one hunted strong ferocious beasts, it would be a thankless task. Clearly, searching for inheritances was killing many birds with one stone, benefiting both sides. Aside from some of the more special princes, the other princes and their guests were all searching for inheritances. The many imperial ancestral temple elders on the Dao platform at the palace's drill ground made their moves together. A huge light screen rose up and flickered, showing the many princes and guests in the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. The ancient Yan Emperor tomb had been remodeled several times. Although there were still many forbidden lands, the imperial ancestral temple already had a rough grasp of the place. As long as the Imperial Ancestral Temple elders wanted to, they could see the situation everywhere at any time. However, it would be somewhat difficult to interfere. The big show had officially begun. Snow fell heavily. 3 days had already passed in the vast snowy region. However, the demon blood vulture had not found anything. On the demon blood vulture's back, Shao Chen, who was cultivating the 10,000 dragons art, opened his eyes. The night wind and snow were cold. It was hard to find anyone, and the signs of life were faint. When Shao Chen looked up, he saw churning clouds. He could not see the sun, the moon, or the stars, only the vast snow. Could this inheritance have been destroyed? After 3 days without any results, Shao Chen felt suspicious. Such a guess was possible. After all, it was at the periphery of the ancient Yan Emperor tomb. In every succession race, the ancient Yan Emperor tomb would be the first to bear the brunt of the impact. It was not impossible for the succession race to be destroyed. Hey, just at this moment, the heavy snow weakened, and the thick clouds in the sky slowly thinned. In the middle of the night, the thick clouds scattered, and a bright moon silently appeared. The bright moon hung high in the sky, looking as gentle as fire. Shao Chen had never expected the bright moon to be this bright. The continuous heavy snow seemed to wash away all the brilliance of the bright moon. In the air, there was still snow falling sparsely. Under the illumination of the moonlight, the remnant snow in the air and the boundless white snowy land gave off a mottled light. The clouds parted, the moon came, and the remnant flowers made shadows. The boundless snowy region created a wondrous scene. Shao Chen muttered to himself as he sat on the demon blood vulture and admired this beautiful scene. Will this be the opportunity one am waiting for?